Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session related to ethics and human interface. I hope all of you are keeping well. I can see a lot of you have thankfully been up because my first concern was how many students will be up early morning and will be attending the session. Good morning and welcome for today's session. As we are going to start with this given component associated with ethics and human interface, I would be substantiating a lot of possibilities associated with this. With respect to this, oh, today is Guru Purnima. Wow. So, thank you so much, Bansi. And God bless you, and God bless everyone over here who's present and focused with respect to this process. Okay, happy birthday, Aniket. I wish you the best in your journey ahead. अभी तो भाई टीचर्स डे इन this way, I mean, Guru Purnima is different from the teachers day, though you can, I mean, like, you can say that it is a cultural way of saying the same. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Now, as we are going to start with this given segment related to ethics and human interface, first and foremost, I would like to introduce the syllabus to all of you. Please tell us that should we make notes? Well, Lakshmi, no, not really, because see, I mean, like the pedagogy, because I believe all of you must be curious about the pedagogy that I would be following. The method that all of you will be exposed to will be the like majority of the times I will be discussing things because your thought needs to be formed, your process of understanding needs to be ignited, and once that is established, then you will be able to build upon the concepts bit by bit, by and by. The method that I'll be using is I'll be like using the PPTs exhaustively, explaining the PPTs, and anything which will be extra, which is not mentioned in the PPT, I'll keep adding it, I'll keep writing it. So you will get the annotated PPTs. So nothing that probably I would say that is important and which I'm writing that would be missed. All the keywords will be there in the PPT, so you'll be able to catch up with that. So this is what I would be sharing. And as far as your curiosity is there, Lakshmi, that what to note down, well, once in a while, suppose I'm giving an example and I'm not writing it down on the PPT, and like let us consider that or I'm expanding or elaborating upon something, but you are seeing that I'm not noting those things down. Only if I speak and you see that I'm not writing, in that situation you can take down that part. Otherwise, I assure you that like 80% of the things to 90% of the things will be reaching out to you, like whatever is being discussed and is important. All right. so um, Yes, Shalu, I do teach sociology, but that's at my platform, and this is not the right place to talk about, right? Because it's just not needed. Towards the end of the session, I'll provide my mail ID. So if there is any query related to optional, that's to be entertained there, not here. All right. Now, no, ethics is not hard at all, Sakib. Rather, it is an eye-opening discipline. This is a discipline which is going to really nourish you as a human being. You will be like really amazed by the possibilities and the chapters it opens in your personality, the finer facts which you had always been thinking at a subtler level, but no one was formally talking about it, academically talking about it in your lives. Suddenly you'll find that people are formally and academically dealing with that given segment chapter after chapter. So that's the beauty about this specific dimension which we are going to open up. Is notes making important, or PPT is enough? Well, that's what I have just shared few minutes uh, like um, back when I was talking about it. So, Rohit, when I'm talking about this given segment, PPTs will be like quite sufficient with respect to it. Um, um, on an average, 80 to 90% of the things which I'll speak will be there on PPT. Suppose I'm substantiating an example, then only it will not be on the PPT, and probably that you can just take down few hint words and that will be fine. How many questions will come from case study and statement based questions? Ilma, if you look into the given dimension, you will find that the question paper is divided into two halves, section A and section B. Section A is related to theoretical questions, and section B is associated with the case studies. So it is advisable for you to go through the previous year question paper to get a feel of how the examiner is raising the questions and engaging your thought process. Yes, there, Lakshmi, there are two subjects which can change your attitude. I believe that by, like, I would say, more than a decade of teaching experience. First thing which can change your attitude is associated with the way you are processing your reality in terms of what's happening in and around your society, and at a deeper level, the ethical concerns. So first and foremost, I can say GS paper 4, ethics, integrity, aptitude, shapes your personality in a big way. Other than that, Indian society, I'm not saying social justice, Indian society also raises some thought provoking concerns pertaining to understanding our society, which also makes an individual empathetic or compassionate towards the larger concerns. So that's what. So, and all those students who are going to study ethics for the first time should not be nervous and should actually trust the possibility that is going to unfold in the next, I would say, 2 weeks. In another 2.5 weeks, you'll realize that the way you have been perceiving the reality related to it is going to, just unfold for all of you. So, first and foremost, when we are talking about this given segment, let us get introduced to the syllabus. So, as all of you can see, the syllabus is over here in front of all of you. There are some prominent dimensions pertaining to the syllabus, which is here. You can see there is this ethics and human interface, and this very first chapter has multiple sub dimensions. If I speak of it, you can see there is determinants and consequences of ethics, and then you can see human actions. Then there is dimensions of ethics, ethics in private and public relation. Then you have human values. With respect to values, this topic of human values gets connected to one more chapter. You can see this contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world. And this given segment of contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world is something which gets connected with this specific chapter. That is lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, administrators. So this is something which goes in consonance with each other. Here, your history, when you're reading ancient, medieval, and modern history, that is also going to nourish you with a lot of examples from the life of great leaders who have inspired us over the centuries to think and to process what's happening around us and what ought to happen, who have provided solutions to mankind or humankind to come up with, I would say, meaningful interventions to have a better way of realization and living. So that is what I would like to suggest. Now, so can we expect a question in prelims? No, it is a hardcore part of mains, as simple as that. So if anyone is like concerned about it, this is a hardcore area related to mains. But the thing is, prelims, the marks doesn't even get added in your selection, in your rank, right? So prelims is just a qualifying area. It is just something which filters the students out, and the ones who are really serious, who are really fighting it fit, are the ones who come forward and appear for the mains. So, I mean, when we are talking about this given area, this area is very, very important with respect to mains, because 250 marks is associated with it. Compared to GS paper 1, 2, and 3, this area is far more scoring, because in GS paper 1, 2, and 3, on an average, students struggle to get 110 marks. Whereas in this area, getting 130 to 140 is also possible. So this area can give you 20 to 30 marks extra compared to GS paper 1, 2, and 3. All right. The more the dynamic the subject, the higher the possibility to score. So, is Indian society included in the syllabus? Yes, it's in GS paper 1. So 250 marks, is it okay to practice it for 2 weeks? No, Misbah. In 2 weeks' time, you will get introduced to all the core areas and chapters. And after that, you have to read from the basic book. Like Subbarao, the book has been provided to all of you. And the latest version of Subbarao, which has been shared with all of you, which has been co-authored with P. N. Roy Chaudhary, it incorporates all the important chapters and concerns that a student needs to know in greater detail. So I will advise that all of you should like purchase that book. All right, so I'll be sharing all of it. All the students who are like rushing up, like, ma'am, which book and which syllabus and this and that. So we'll be like getting into the detailed discussion related to this given area right now. So what I request all of you is that let's go systematically. All your concerns shall be addressed. Once the overview is done and you feel that your concern is yet not addressed, then you can just bring that up. So when we are talking about this, yeah, the book is very, very important, Maithili, along with the slides and PPTs, and also some material like some soft copy that I'll be sharing with all of you. So that is what. Now, with respect to this given segment, as we are like moving ahead with it, let us first get introduced to the first and foremost the components which are there in the syllabus. So you can say first chapter is ethics and human interface, and in this we also have a sub component of human values. The keywords I have already highlighted. So lessons and from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, and administrators, I said, connected with history as well. Then the role of family, society, and educational institutions in inculcating values. So if you notice, this paper is a combination of various subjects. The first chapter, you can see, it is like borrowed, certain insights are borrowed from the component of philosophy, and the last subcomponent related to values, that is role of family, society, and educational institutions in inculcating values, is something which is associated with sociological concern. Again, you can see the chapters like attitude, and again you can see aptitude, and another topic that is emotional intelligence. These three topics are associated with psychology. So if anyone claims that ethics paper 4 is all about philosophy, no, not really. It is a combination of history, philosophy, then you can find psychology, public administration, and a bit of sociology. 5 subjects clubbed together, blended together, creates the concern for this given paper when you explore about it. So, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, attitude, again, you can see there are various subsegments pertaining to it: content, structure, functions, its influence related to thought and behavior. And then finally, you all can like reflect upon other segments like moral and political attitude. Now, political attitude is something which you keep listening in newspapers and magazines, that, oh, left wing thinker, right wing thinker. So what is right wing, what is left wing, which wing would you belong to, and does our identity, our birth, our location, our caste, our gender, our religion influence our political attitude? So a lot of finer details we'll be discussing related to it. Simultaneously, in our attitude formation, what is the role of social influence and persuasion, and what is the difference between, like, influence and persuasion, and coercion, and we can also say manipulation. Is persuasion the same thing as manipulation, or is it different from it? So these segments we will be substantiating further. Again, you can see the segment related to aptitude and foundational values for civil services. In this, I'll share some material with all of you, so that you develop a sense of understanding related to it. Now, in this given segment, when we speak of aptitude and foundational values for civil services, this is a chapter which I believe every student should also revise before interview, because this given area is something which is tested even in the interview segment, whether you have it in yourself or not. Because, I mean, the purpose of conducting the interview is through a purposive conversation, cross check the, like, I would say, potential of a student, whether a student is capable of being a good civil servant or not. So the examiner, rather than testing facts and figures, though there are in interview, there are factual questions also asked once in a while, maybe related to economy or IR or social concerns or economic concerns. But if you are unable to respond to them because you have not revised, or somehow you are unable to recall in the interview in time, that does not work against you. Okay. So when we are talking about this given segment, you need to understand that the very perspective of the examiner, while like testing your caliber in the interview through a purposive conversation, is to like get a wholesome understanding of you and your personality. So suppose a child is not able to respond to a factual question, that's okay, chalega. You're not going to get negatively marked for it. But yes, I can assure you one specific possibility related to this foundational values for civil services, and that is, when we speak of it, is that, like, through case studies, through situation based questions, through some other opinion based questions, the examiner can put this aspect to test, whether you have these given qualities or not. So it is advisable that be very thorough with this chapter, revise it very thoroughly, try to bring in the key words which are given over here as you are responding to the question in the interview, because it is going to fetch you extra marks. This is a piece of advice which I give to all of you, all the students who are present right now, that all of you should be very thorough with this given chapter, not only for mains but also for interview, that is foundational values for civil services. One of you asked that what is aptitude. Well, aptitude, when we speak of it, do you know this civil services aptitude test, CSAT? So what is this component associated with aptitude? Okay, so when we are speaking of it, aptitude will be definitely associated with the innate, I would say, skill, the innate talent, the caliber that you possess. So whether you have it in yourself or not, this innate caliber or talent can be by birth, or it can also be acquired. Okay, in your case, with respect to civil services preparation, it has to be both way. Okay, and it is considered, when I'll be discussing in detail this given chapter, you will realize that aptitude, like what are the do's don'ts, how aptitude formation takes place, how it has helped a lot of people, from sports persons to intellectuals to literateurs, or like successful people from all walks of life, how aptitude has helped them to become successful. So the details of it will be shared once the chapter is discussed. So all you need to do is, I would say, just hold on with a bit of patience. Okay, so that's the innate caliber, the innate potential, the innate, I would say, possibility associated with any given area. Okay, now, so I appreciate all those students who are able to like respond to it. Okay, yes, Shalu, I'll be completing the entire syllabus for you, and the entire syllabus shall be handled by me, so not a problem. Okay, so good, Nitesh, you are able to respond to it. So should we make running notes? No, not needed, not needed right now. So role in current, a lot of segments which will be like associated with the chapter that will be shared in detail. Now here, as we are discussing about it, so aptitude and foundational values, so what kind of foundational values need to be given specific attention? So there is integrity, impartiality and non-partisanship. Non-partisanship is apolitical behavior, whereby you're not exercising any kind of political favoritism. Okay, so that's also kind of an impartial behavior, but in political sense. Again, you can see objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, and then you have compassion. So all these keywords associated with the syllabus have to be dealt with quite exhaustively. I'll also, in the notes, I'll give you some little material related to few other, I would say, civil services foundational values, so that you are able to reflect upon that as well, like accountability, courage or fortitude, some smaller ones as well, because that is also something which is put to test. And if you remember it, that is something which will be helpful. So, with respect to this, again, you have emotional intelligence, concepts and its utility, application in like public administration and governance, and along with that, the contribution of moral thinkers from India and world, means Western philosophers and thinkers, as well as Indian philosophers and thinkers. You can also have Asian thinkers like Confucius. Okay. Again, you can see in the syllabus, you have the segment pertaining to public or civil services values in and ethics in public administration. And this is something which gets connected with your ethical dilemmas. Truthfully speaking, if you know the foundational values, so the foundational values help you to solve any kind of ethical dilemma, any kind of challenge. And truth is, these dilemmas are something which is put over here in case study. That's why I'm putting 2 stars. You can see that. It is ethical dilemmas majority of the times which is put to test in case studies when we are talking about it. Okay. So along with that, we can also see that in your syllabus, you have like the ethical concerns pertaining to like government and private institutions. Then you have laws, rules, regulations, and a very important sub dimension, conscience. Conscience as a source of ethical guidance. Okay, so laws, rules, regulations, definitely that can be asked. A constitution can be brought in action, legal reforms can be brought in action, that how it is a source of ethical guidance. At the same time, conscience, that is crisis of conscience, voice of conscience, such questions have been asked in 2018 and 19 if you go through the previous year question paper. Again, accountability and ethical governance, strengthening of ethical and moral values in governance, and then you can see ethical issues in international relations, specifically in IR. With respect to IR, you are finding the funding, the funding like with respect to, like, let's say, terrorism, war. So what kind of funding should take place and how is it taking place, and on ethical grounds or ethical basis, in what ways funding ought to take place. So all those concerns are also there, along with corporate governance. Along with this, we all can see there is probity. Probity in governance. With respect to probity, when we are talking about it, so probity, when we are discussing about this given dimension, a lot of students are like very curious in terms of number of lecture. Is it sufficient? Is it more than enough? Just enjoy the process, trust the process, just move ahead with the process, and just be there. That is something which is going to bring about the change. So trust the process. This is what I'll say. You shall experience the change session after session, in terms of the content, in terms of your capability to understand and interpret, and in terms of your capability enhancement for the examination. All right, so trust the process. This is what I can say. Dilemma, Abhishek, it means confusion. Okay, confusion, whether to do this or that. All right, so why will Indian society be taught in ethics class, Bharadwaj? I mean, does it make any sense that Indian society be taught? I mean, why would economics be taught in ethics class, or why would history be taught in ethics class? The subject which you are exposed to, that is the discipline we will be focusing on. All right. Now, so, all right. Thank you, Aniket. Yes, last year I had taken some essay sessions also. That will be again towards the month end, or probably next month beginning. So that's there. Now, with respect to this, how dynamic is this? As I explain the chapters, you will understand how dynamic it would be, right? So speaking it in theory will not be possible. So for that, let me just move ahead. Which optional will be overlapping with this, Rahul? 5 optional subjects. Few concerns of philosophy, few concerns of public administration, few concerns associated with sociology, few concerns of psychology. So if you are talking about it, and few concerns of history. So if any of the optional teachers, including I, claim that, oh, it's all about this discipline, it will not be a justified way to speak of it. That's something which I have proved through the syllabus. Okay, discussing the syllabus for past 5-10 minutes. Okay, geography too. Why to say geography? There's not a single subtopic related to geography, Kivika, right? So it's not associated with geography even distantly. But yes, it is associated with 5 subjects in totality. Interestingly, the syllabus of UPSC Ethics, Integrity, and Aptitude is a blend of 5 disciplines beautifully created with respect to what all segments a future civil services aspirant, okay, or a future civil servant needs to be empowered with. Okay. Yes, certain segments, Sakib, will be associated with law. Very briefly, when we are talking about ethics, we'll be comparing it with law, religion, all of it. Now, so as we are moving ahead with respect to this, you can see in probity in governance, we have concepts of like public services, the philosophical basis of governance and probity. Then we have information sharing and transparency. So here it gets connected to your current or contemporary information. Like you can see this right to information, other than right to information, citizens charter, utilization of public funds, quality of service delivery, challenges of corruption. These are related to current affairs. Anything which is happening in and around us, that will get connected. Similarly, in the previous topic also, ethical issues in international relations, corporate governance, these are associated with current affairs. And a lot of examples, I would say, can be picked from our day-to-day lives and associated with all the previous chapters as well, which is over here. You can see this, that is attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence. You'll see that I'll be picking your day-to-day life issues, experiences, and examples and consolidating it fit for all of you, whereby you'll be like, oh my god, yes, this is something which we experience on day-to-day basis, and okay, this is associated with ethics. So this is a highly, I would say, contemporary subject to go ahead with. So with respect to this, you also have this component of case studies on above issues. Mind the word above issues. Above issues means you can get case study on emotional intelligence, on civil services attitude, and then you can get something associated with civil services aptitude also. You can get something associated with probity in governance. Okay, a question related to like a private sector, because public and private sector both is there in the syllabus. So you a case study can be given that you are a manager in a private sector, or a person is a manager in a private sector, and XYZ is the condition. So in that condition, what should the person do? Okay, so case studies will be associated with all the above chapters in some or the other way, whereby you will have to like look into the concerns associated with the, we can consider all the above chapters and their application per se. All right. So second last topic is more overlapping with governance topics. Yes, that's why I said public administration is the optional. If you see second last and last chapter, it is connected to that. So this will be in minuscule portion, like connecting with other disciplines. I mean, like, yeah, in a way, you'll realize it as it unfolds. Now, recommended areas which students who have a lot of time, for them, I have created something much more exhaustive. Students who have less time to prepare, for them, Subba Rao. Okay, this is the book that has been provided to all of you. So this P.N. Roy Chaudhary and Subba Roy. So this is something which has been provided to all of you. So this book is one-stop solution to begin with. Okay, so this is a must. If someone else is like let us say, so this is like one-stop solution to like prepare your basics. If someone else is interested to read furthermore, do some reference reading, then gist of second ARC, this gist is important, I would say, even for paper 2 governance, social justice, not just GS paper 4 ethics. So, like, and if you are a student of PubAd, तो फिर तो कुछ कहना ही नहीं है. Or so, with respect to this gist of second ARC, I'm saying gist, not the entire second ARC, just the gist, and you can very easily find it. Okay, the moment you Google search, you find gist, like umpteen options like available related to the gist. So, just like once I complete the syllabus for all of you, once the entire segment is done, then you pick the gist, and what you have to deal with it is that you take the gist and tally it. Specifically, it will get connected to your second last and last chapter. Once in a while, in the earlier chapters also, when the gist gets connected, I'll keep mentioning that in this report, 10th report this one, 4th report this one. So you'll see that I'll keep mentioning that. So you'll keep getting a clarity how to put the gist to use. Again, the psychology book of NCERT standard 11th and 12th, I told you attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence. These topics are there in the syllabus. You want to do some extra reading, this is there. Okay. With respect, this is the Byju's book. People who are asking, ma'am, Byju's book, bhaiya, yahi to hai Byju's book tumhara. Subba Rao and P.N. Roy Chaudhary is the book that was provided to all of you. So this is the one which you have to deal with. Now, so कभी author का नाम भी देख लेना चाहिए time pass में, देखिए कौन लिख रहा है, right? Now, with respect to this, so Yojana, when we are talking about it, you can also see this that good governance. There was a Yojana dedicated for it in archive section. You can find it. So 2013 inclusive governance, 2013 reforms in public administration, 2014 again September 2020. So in this, a lot of interesting articles have been consolidated of, I would say, administrators, think tanks, academicians, and you can take certain examples, cue points, and insights, which can also help you to build the content for certain chapters. So Yes, students who have less time, I imply yes. Students who are going to write mains this year is what I imply. Students having less time. Students who have more time, after the chapter is covered, they can indulge more. For the simple reason is that, yeah, the Byju's book is bulky for the simple reason every single segment should be discussed in greater detail. No, why should one like deal with things in a flimsy manner? So once you are thorough with it, you are going to like um, realize that greater reflection, greater reading improves your, like I would say, acumen to write, to think, to have the right set of jargons, words. And voracious reading always helps. It helps you in essay writing, it helps you in answer writing related to all the four GS papers, it helps you to even speak smartly in the interview. So, having good reading habit and not shying away from reading more, having a tendency to balance good quality reading and quantity reading within a stipulated time bound manner is the mark of a sharp civil services aspirant. All right. Now, so with respect to this, you can also read, I mean, like bedtime books are also something which I'll recommend rather than using phones, like watching Insta reels and TikTok and not able to sleep in time, thinking I'll sleep in 10 minutes, watching it for 1 hour, 2 hours, wasting your time trickle by trickle. Okay. Drop by drop. Okay. Is something which is a sheer wastage of time, which is neither nourishing you in terms of quality, nor in terms of vocabulary, nor in terms of thought process. So, what is advisable? And anyway, if you are not aware of this given possibility, then let me share this with all of you that the phone creates a lot of radiation which also kills your gray cells, and gray cells, interesting fact is, once they are killed, they are gone. So that also leads to memory loss, that can lead to sleep cycles getting altered, disturbed, like a lot of other kinds of forms of anxiety, restlessness, like there can be a lot of other kind of repercussions. So best thing which is advisable, don't sleep with your phone. Keep your phone on a table distant from you, at least 4 or 5 feet away from you, and before sleeping, I mean, you can read a book, and after reading few pages only you can sleep. And those books can also nourish you in terms of motivation, thought process, language, examples for ethics and essay. So a few books which I can recommend is, you can see this My Experiments with Truth, Mahatma Gandhi, Verghese Kurian's autobiography, Swami Vivekananda's book, that is Karma Yoga, or his biography can also be read. You can also watch videos which are of Michael Sandel. He had taken certain lectures in Harvard University, so it is available for free on YouTube. In your free time, you can watch those lectures also. I will also advise you to memorize few interesting quotations related to key words which are there in your syllabus from Goodreads. I personally like this website because its quotations are thought provoking. Even you can, like manipulate some quotations or abbreviate certain quotations, take a gist or take a phrasal expression from a quotation and make it a part of your language. That is also the thing that is possible. All right. Along with that, you can also read certain selected articles by Immanuel Kant, Aristotle, which is readily available over the internet. Okay, there is also a BBC website that is dedicated on the topic of ethics, so you can consult that also in your free time. If you want to read something extra, it happens we don't feel like reading the book, so we want to continue reading, but not from a similar source. So in that situation, you can switch to these sources to continue with the subject, but through other mode of learning. Okay, so that's what I can suggest. So yeah, Subbarao is sufficient. The concerns of lexicon are covered in Subbarao. So that's what I would be suggesting. Lexicon, with respect to lexicon, to begin with, okay, what to read from Subbarao? To begin with, you can start with these chapters to begin with, and because these will be something which will be like helping you. And if you ask me like what is important, all chapters are important related to Subbarao. Even the chapter which looks like very very less important, that is ethics in ministers. Okay, but still, what if you get a case study like question, right? So ethics in ministers was the only chapter I felt that it has a distant possibility of being asked, but rest all the other chapters, it's very important, you have to read it, there's no shortcut. All right. So yeah, you can jot down quotes from Aniket, as you're asking, from Gita, Mahabharata, Quran, Bible, because religious books are also a source of ethics. Okay, our understanding of ethics also develops from religious books other than social reformers, administrators, and thinkers. All right, so that's there. You should just start exploring to begin with, and you'll start getting an idea. Now, so with respect to ethics, that is ethics and human interface, the first chapter that we are going to start with. So between 2013 to 2022, there have been 15 questions that have been asked from this first chapter. So you can very well understand that how important this first chapter is going to be when we are discussing about it. Okay. So yes, to build your basics, Rahul, standard 11th and 12th psychology book will be fine with respect to the 3 chapters: attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence. That's it. Okay. Could you help, please help on the portions to be covered, other sources you mentioned, ma'am? No, this is it. Don't get into too many meandering sources. This is more than enough. So you have to name the quote. Yes, if you remember the source of quotation, that will be better. That will be better for ethics paper as well as essay paper. In GS paper 1, 2, and 3, you don't have to write quotations. It's unnecessary. It's wastage of words. You can pick the insights and wisdom of quotation and incorporate it in your introduction or conclusion or somewhere in between. That's fine for GS paper 1, 2, and 3. Quotations are not needed. The wisdom can be borrowed. Okay, but paper 4 and essay, writing quotations gives you extra marks. All right, so that is what. Thirukural, will you read the entire book? No, not really, right? Thiruvalluvar was the thinker, and that's what I said, that a bit of understanding associated with history will always be helpful. Ancient, medieval, and modern thinkers from India, from all parts, how they have contributed in, like I would say, shaping our wisdom. Okay, so that's what. So from where we can get the quotes, I told you that is Goodreads, the website. You get amazing set of quotes from there, right? So now, is it necessary to write quotation? Abhimanyu, it's not necessary, but you imagine, suppose I'm reading an answer, a thought-provoking, reflective answer. And in that answer, the child is also quoting a very thought-provoking sentence spoken by one of the philosophers or leaders. Then definitely it will be more impressive. The child can get half marks extra, right? And if 3 or 4 questions also get that half marks extra, there'll be a difference of 2 marks. And then think about it in essay. And then like some extra marks. Think about the wisdom you're gaining and how it is influencing your language while you're writing other answers or giving the interview. So the very attitude to remember quotations or the attitude to seek inspiration from quotations is going to make you wiser, right? So why to resist it? This is what I would say. Now, with respect to this chapter, yes, in Subbarao you can find the chapter, this one, ethics and human interface. Now, so as we are going to start with this given segment, what is ethics? Isse pehle I'm just feeling like adding something more to all of you, because as we are starting with this given segment, I personally feel that something more should be substantiated to all of you, because that's something which is required according to me for like building your basics. See, as we are starting with this given chapter, please remember that for building your basics related to ethics, um, the entire component, ethics, integrity, okay, and aptitude, what actually is required, because questions are not typical bookish. If you actually see the previous year question, the questions are actually testing your wisdom. In fact, I can say nowadays it is associated with all the 4 GS papers. Once in a while, the examiner is putting your wisdom to test. Like, for example, you can see that in polity, if any student is reading Lakshmikant and going and thinking that, oh, with Lakshmikant, I can really respond to all the questions of polity, all of you know now, by now, that it will be sheer stupidity. For prelims, Lakshmikant is fine. But for mains, Lakshmikant is not even distantly sufficient. Why? Because factual questions are not asked. Thought-provoking questions related to your capability to understand and interpret is something which is put to test, right? So when we are speaking about this given area related to ethics, where your perception is tested, your understanding is tested, so let us understand something starting from Indian philosophy itself. Indian philosophy says that we attain wisdom by darshan, dhyana, and karma. Okay. And in other words, if I speak of it, darshan, dhyan, and karma, like, let us understand this given possibility. When I say darshan, darshan is observing your environment. Okay. When you observe your environment thoroughly. So in that situation, you start getting exposed to a lot of facts. You start getting exposed to a lot of, we can say, realities, incidents, right? So first and foremost, like when you're reading a book, you're getting exposed to a lot of, I would say, facts, issues, insights. So it's like first step of learning is darshan, whether you're reading or observing. Okay, so that's what, observe, darshan. Then comes the component of dhyan. Dhyan means contemplation. Contemplation, whatever you read, whether it's a newspaper article, okay, and whether it is associated with a theory written in your book, a lecture which your teacher has taught, contemplate that whatever is going on in the news, how is it connected to the theory that has been taught to me so far. So connecting and reflecting, so that is contemplation when we speak of it. So contemplation, or other word which is a deeper and better word, is introspection. Okay, that's dhyan. And then comes the component of karma. Karma is application. This application part is something which is required for nowadays majority of the answers. See the essay questions. I mean, people say, oh, philosophical topics are asked. Are you supposed to write philosophy in essay? All the 8 topics? No, not really. The examiner is not interested to, like, read philosophy in your answer, whether essay or in ethics. The examiner wants to see who you have become as a personality, how deep, how curious, how connected you are as a person. So, application is something which is put to test when we are talking about it. So, darshan, dhyan, and karma. So, darshan is observation, dhyan is contemplation, and karma is application of that. So, how do you apply it? After attainment of wisdom. It does not happen overnight. Multiple levels of introspection and contemplation leads to the ease and fluidity of attaining wisdom, and with that wisdom, like, responding like effortlessly all those questions that have been asked. So majority of the students are at the level of this darshan, facts. Book में रट लो, यहाँ रट लो, बस facts, facts, और ये वो telegram channel था, facts, facts, facts. So majority of you are at the level of darshan. Few of you are at the level of dhyan. In fact, I will say a lot of students who, in fact, tend to get selected are also the ones who are like at the level of dhyan. Dhyan here does not mean meditation, Ajay. Okay, trust your teacher. There can be things which your teacher can also teach you beyond what you know. Okay, so you will be able to learn some new interpretations to the terms that you have been understanding. Right. So over here, when I'm talking about it in the world of philosophy, darshan, dhyan, and karma. So when we are talking about the possibility of as you suggested, meditation. So, what do you do in meditation? You contemplate over the issues, contemplate over the facts, contemplate over what is there, why is it there, how is it there, what possibilities it can create, what dimensions it is opening. So, that's what. So, contemplate, introspect when we speak of it. Okay. And after contemplation and introspection, then we go ahead with the possibility of what? Application. When we apply, when we apply the wisdom in totality, thoroughly. Okay, so this is something which you'll gain little later. Speaking about it right now will be like not advisable, but I can give you a glimpse of it, I can give you a hint of it. Okay, so for example, I can just give you an insight. Like, let us say if I'm talking about Mahatma Gandhi, right? So Mahatma Gandhi, what happened? You saw, I mean, you read about him, that Mahatma Gandhi, when he was traveling through the train and he was thrown out of the first class, when he was denied an entry because of racism being practiced. So Mahatma Gandhi, when he was thrown out of the train, at that time he was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So he observed the fact that, oh, I have been a victim of racial discrimination. And then he contemplated that as a lawyer, I can fight the case and I can win the case because I have the proof that I had class 1 ticket, but I was not allowed to board. I was kicked out. I was humiliated. I was abused. So when you contemplate, when you introspect, what are the ways in which I can fix the situation? So he realized that he can fix the situation because he's a lawyer. He has all the right proofs. He can fight the case and he can win it. But with deeper levels of introspection, he realized that my crisis is not just my crisis. There are hundreds and thousands of people who are victims of racial violence. It's not just I being thrown out of the train. It is any person who is having a darker skin can become the victim of it. So it's not just my individual fight. It is the fight of millions of others. So I should not individualize the fight. I should connect it with the larger concern of the people. And with that, when he started protesting, when he started contesting, and then he realized that just going to the court is not the solution. There is something more than that. Peaceful protest and protest in multiple ways is required. And not resorting to violence is required, because it is very easy for army to crush, for police to crush those who are resorting to violence. It is very easy. So the very reflection associated with the given possibility that the police or the army can crush violence. So how to continue to protest and become successful? How to get our voices registered? So that contemplation and introspection took him to the wisdom, borrowing the wisdom from ancient times. The wisdom of Buddha, the wisdom of Mahavira, of non-violence, of satyagraha. Okay. So when that wisdom was processed by Gandhi, he developed his own tool based on that principle of non-violence, and that was called satyagraha. Okay. When you are demanding truth. So his wisdom created a political tool for opposition. Right. So when there is darshan, there is dhyan, and then there is karma. Okay, then the kind of evolution that takes place, the changes that takes place in the society, that's tremendous. Darshan, dhyana, karma. Think about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, right? Raja Ram Mohan Roy saw his, like, sister-in-law, his bhabi, who was more like a motherly figure. Raja Ram Mohan Roy lost his mother at a quite a young age. So it was his elder sister-in-law, that is his elder bhabhi, who was more like a motherly figure to him. Like she was the one who nurtured him, who was the one who raised him. So she was more like a motherly figure. And when like his elder brother died, she was forced to commit sati, and that shook him to the core. It's like, how can a woman be forced to commit suicide? And why can't she have the right to live? And then the concerns that, oh, it is because of exploitation meted out to widows. So if widowers can marry, why can't widows marry? Why so many restrictions? 16 types of rules to be followed by a widow woman from morning till late night, getting up early even before it's dawn, and like getting into like cleaning your stuffs, ablution, this and that. You don't have to come out in public. You don't have to use spices in your food. You cannot use color in your clothes. You have to completely live an ascetic life. You cannot sleep on a mattress. You have to sleep on the cold floor. So a lot of rules and regulations that a widow woman had to live with. Not attend any public ceremony, any festival, stay away from any kind of public meeting because you are ominous with your presence. So like constantly denigrated in her position, looked down upon, exploited. So such a woman with multiple levels of exploitation, all forms of joy of life in terms of food, in terms of sleeping, in terms even basic needs and necessities denied. So a lot of women who were married, they used to be so scared of becoming a widow that they were like, okay, maybe the pain of committing sati is tremendous, but it is momentous. The life of widow is so much more worse. So when Raja Ram Mohan Roy, when we are talking about it, when we are speaking of it, we all can see this. There were certain Ilma strains associated with his mother. When we are talking about it, what you're talking, I'll have to like just cross check. But when we are talking about it, he was very very close to his elder sister-in-law, and he treated her like a mother. And her death shook him to the core. So let us stick to the very possibility associated with what happened. So Darshan, he observed her death, the facts related to her death, why that death happened, what possibility happened, what kind of possibilities should have happened to his sister-in-law. Then dhyan, contemplation, what ought to happen. Can the British rule do something about it? Can rules and regulations be altered? Is it about one woman or is it about women in general? And then the karma, not only inspiring the Britishers to do away with the practice of sati by creating a legal reform, but also the component of karma related to Raja Ram Mohan Roy. You can see that he started creating social reforms, propagating the idea, before everyone when we speak of it, right? So when we are talking about darshan, dhyan, and karma, you can see the same inspiration, this darshan, dhyan, and karma, inspiring a lot of leaders. And not just that, we can also connect that this idea of darshan, dhyan, and karma has to be observed with various possibilities when we are talking about it. Okay. So, I mean, if we give technical terms like ethos, pathos, and logos, SME, thank you for supporting the child, but the child will get further confused because the technical jargons can probably surprise the child. So, darshan, dhyan, karma, ethos, pathos, logos. I mean, I want to first get to Western philosophers and thinkers, get to Aristotle, and then explain that. All right. So, Shanavaz, good that you raised it, but let us have some brief understanding of it associated with this given dimension. So in this paper, you'll realize that from the preamble to the DPSP to the fundamental rights, even to the way we start arriving at solutions related to constitutional morality. What is our constitutional morality? How are we arriving at constitutional morality? How we go for legal amendments? How we go for a lot of amendments associated with our present reality? How we try to find solutions to it? That is something that comes from this darshan. First we observe what's happening, then contemplation, what ought to happen, why it ought to happen, and then the karma, which leads to the all forms of reforms which happen in the constitution or in the law of the land. Again, we can see this with respect to science and technology also. Science and technology, like issues related to euthanasia, cloning, surrogacy, anything which is like associated with ethical concerns, right? Three parent baby, abortion, genetic engineering. So first and foremost, we get into observing the facts, and then we get into the debate associated with it. A lot of, I would say, moral inquiry from within, that what is right, what is wrong according to us, why is it right, why is it wrong, then pooling in all our moral inquiries together and making it a community-based inquiry, and then trying to find a formidable solution to such ever increasing, we can say, dilemmas and problems that we are constantly suffering from. So when we are talking about the paper of ethics, please understand, finding one stop easy solution is not something that is possible. So when I say wisdom, what I imply to say, with GS, all the three papers, plus daily observation, plus I would say, and daily observation, when I imply to say, so daily observation is something which is associated with all kinds of news that we are reading, in like in different types of newspapers and magazines. So plus we can say examples from all forms of media, examples from media. Okay, so all these three segments is something which is going to create our, I would say, okay, so it is something which is going to create our knowledge. Okay, and this knowledge base, so it will be associated with all kinds of issues. It can be political issues, economic issues, social issues, okay, administrative issues, issues pertaining to governance, okay, all of it. So ethical concerns, all of it, and all this will lead to we attaining wisdom for this paper. And once you attain that sense of wisdom bit by bit, that is something which is going to give you good marks. All right, so that's what is we can like we all can connect with. So Hmm. Okay, interesting, Pulkit. If you want to connect it, go ahead with it. We can incorporate certain examples later. Okay, examples related to it. Right now, touching it will be a sensitive political issue, which will trigger a different kind of response and can deviate our attention from what we are dealing with. But I'll take it again. I'll take it up soon in some or the other subtopic. Now, so first and foremost, as we are starting with this, what is ethics? So, what is ethics? When we speak of it, a basic like a overview, because you need some technical explanation, some I would say academic explanation to it. So ethics, when we say what is the right thing to do, okay, so ethical, or the word ethics, it is coming from the Greek word ethikos. So ethikos implies to customs, habits, character, or disposition. So ethics, the word, when we speak of it, it is sometimes called moral code of conduct. Ethics which determines our moral code of conduct, so how we should morally behave. So the ethics is not something associated with just an individual sense of right or wrong. It is a universal principle. It is a universal sense of understanding that what is right and what is wrong. So it is a system of moral principles, a system which is guiding individuals continually about what is right and what is wrong. So it differentiates between the two, the good and bad, the fair and the unfair, and it is codifying the principles of what is good behavior, what is acceptable behavior that ought to be followed. So there are certain quotations also which I have consolidated. You can see Johnson and Helgers, and then there's Bentham, and then you can see the Preston, he's there. So you can just reflect upon the given dimension, that what is ethics. So it is a body of prescriptions and prohibitions, or do's and don'ts, or as you can see, Bentham is saying ethics may be styled as the art of self-government. Self-government means how you can regulate your own self, or it is a concern about what is right or what is like just good. So what is just means justified. Just means what is justified, or what is right, whatever you can consider it to be. Okay, so and what is good, what is fair. So just is also associated with fairness. Okay, so what is fair, what is correct. So that's what Preston suggests. So again, you can further see that I said that it is like ethics, it is a branch of philosophy associated with human conduct, how people behave. It is associated with moral judgments. It also gives us knowledge about what is right and wrong. This is something which is again repeated because it was discussed earlier as well. It is also, like I told you, it is a moral code of conduct. So it is guiding our human conduct. What is the right thing, how to attain a good life. Now this word good life, if you see, in 2018, 19, 20, the idea of good life, ideal life, right life is something which was also asked in essay. Yes, essay. Like one of the essay topics was dealing with this given component, like year after year, not exactly the same word good life. Some year it has been given ideal, some year it has been given the word value, some year it has been given the idea of good life, the word good life itself. So the concern was associated with this chapter. A student who is very thorough with the chapters pertaining to ethics, integrity, aptitude shall be able to write today's essay, the expectations which today's examiner is holding from the essay topics more profoundly. That's why after teaching this component of, I would say, the component associated with ethics, I always prefer, like, taking essay after that. Because especially in last, I would say, 5 years, 2018 to 2022, so 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, last 5 years, you will see that one section was dedicated for philosophical essays in 2018, 19, and 20. 21 and 22, both the sections, section A and B, was dedicated to philosophical essays or ethical concerns. So why is the examiner raising concerns related to it even in essay? What is the reason? The reason is, in GS answers, like in the answers related to ethics, you have to write 150 words, or you have to write, like, let's say, 250 words maximum, right? So 150, 250 words a student can cram, memorize, present 80% of the content. But when you have to write an essay, which is almost 16 pages, going by an average standard handwriting. If your handwriting is slightly bigger, then maybe 20 pages. If it is little, like I would say, short and crisp, and it's like you're writing something like 100 or 90 words in one page, then maybe something like 8 to 10 pages. That's it. But a student cannot fool around page after page after page, like you keep turning. Okay, page after page after page, a student cannot fool around with factual ideas gained only from books. Somewhere, a sneak peek of a student's personality will be made. And through that sneak peek of the personality, the UPSC examiner gets a chance to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of your personality. That's why the preparation of ethics paper also prepares you with a lot of content for the essay paper. All right, that's what something that we'll be dealing. How to improve essay? Well, we'll be discussing about it, Aditya and all other students. We'll be dealing with essay most probably 31st of this month, that is July. 31st of July to 7th of July, we'll have the essay classes in the evening batch. Okay, so at that time, you can just join in and you can just get exposed to how to go ahead with essay. Because after dealing with ethics classes, when you join essay classes, it will make more sense. You will be able to develop content more thoroughly. When I explain the topics, you'll be like, ab samajh mein aa raha hai. What does it imply? Because today, if you see the question paper, especially of 21 and 22, you'll be like lost. You'll be like, oh my God, I can't even interpret the sentence, and how to write 10 or 12 or 16 or 20 pages, whatever is your reality, going by the size of your handwriting, right? So you will feel that threat today, but you will feel that sense of conviction and clarity as you are getting thorough with this given area. Now, so this was 2022 question. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. Okay, so ethics is knowing the difference between what you have right to do, means what you can do, and what is right to do. So not something which is within your power, okay, that what you can do, rather what is the right thing to do, even if you have the power, but what should be the right decision taken in that moment. Okay, so that's a very in-depth question of, like, that has been asked by the examiner. The quotation by Potter Stewart. The question, when it is asked, it is less about the thinker, who Potter Stewart is, or whether you can write a brief overview about Potter Stewart or not. No, it's not like that. When I'll be discussing Indian or Western moral philosophers and thinkers, before starting the chapter, I'll tell you how to respond to questions pertaining to thinkers' quotations. It is less about the thinker, it is more about the statement, the validity of the statement, the relevance of the statement, and if the wisdom that is given in the statement has been spoken or has parallel analogies coming from other thinkers or any other school of thought or philosophy also or not. Okay, so just getting you exposed to the level first. Don't get nervous. Just see that this is the level that you have to climb up to. Okay, now let us start with, like, the simplistic area, and then come up to this level. Bit by bit, we'll climb this level. Okay, by the time we are going with Western and Indian philosophers and thinkers, you'll be able to respond to such questions with greater conviction. First, let us start. So I just gave you a brief understanding related to what is ethics, what do we imply by ethics, what have different thinkers got to say about what ethics is all about. So how it is universal moral principle, it is giving us a code of conduct, it is giving us an idea what is right and wrong, how people ought to behave, all those segments you got exposed to, right? So the source of ethics, this is something, that's why one of the students asked that, ma'am, can we quote Gita? I said Gita, Mahabharata, Quran, Bible, anything. So when we speak of sources of ethics, one is a religion, as you can see. So our sense of right and wrong comes from religion. God, the idea of God may or may not be there in a religion. Like Buddhism does not talk anything about God. Okay, so the idea of God may or may not be there, but what is right, that is something with respect to, the component of religion, that it is giving us this insight. Again, human conscience. You know, conscience is there in your syllabus. Remember, I said voice of conscience, crisis of conscience has been asked, second last chapter. So conscience will be dealing with it. So conscience also guides us about, it's an innate sense of right and wrong. Let me give you an example. Like, let's say you enter a movie hall. Okay, so the moment you enter a movie hall, Suppose you notice that, okay, maybe Abhishek, it's your first session, that's why you are asking, ma'am, break please. Ideally the break is given in the midst of the session, so every day remember the break will be around 7:45. Okay, अभी इस बात को सुनो, इस कहानी को सुनो, तो मजा आएगा और फिर दिमाग लगाना, ठीक है? I understand majority of you are school going kids or college going kids, habituated to take a 50 minute session. So suddenly you're exposed to a 3.5 hour session. So that is taxing your senses. But truth is, the day you become really sincere about preparation, you'll realize that preparation becomes effortless. You don't follow hours. It is only when we are kids and we are like, younger ones, that we notice, oh, we studied this much and that much. But when we really joyously celebrate doing something, we don't really care for time, right? Just imagine you watching a TV series back to back, episode after episode. You never care whether 4 hours is spent or 2 hours is spent or 7 hours is spent. You are just like lying on the couch, you are eating and you're watching it back to back. Why? Because it's a joyous experience. You're enjoying it, you are connected with it. All your senses are focused. In the similar manner, the day you start like deriving joy, tremendous pleasure, tremendous sense of connection with studies, that day your selection becomes inevitable. Or I would say success in life, attainment of wisdom becomes inevitable. Because since childhood we have been beaten up or we have been scolded or we have been pushed to study, so subconsciously study becomes like a very, I would say, challenging factor, isn't it? Mentally, I have to study. So that's why the pressure, that even if we are enjoying it, is like, I have to study, like that, right? So don't think like that. Anyway, I was giving you an analogy associated with this. So I was just giving you this given dimension associated with our sense of right and wrong. Kya example dena tha, udi gaya dimag se. Okay, no problem, I'll just get back to that example once again. So with respect to this fact associated with human conscience, our sense of right and wrong, so like, when we are talking about our ideas pertaining to right and wrong, we derive it from our like, our innate sense also. Like this example which I was about to say, I forgot it briefly for a few seconds. Again, I'll give you. So yeah, movie hall. Yes, thank you for that, Ilma and Hardeep. So like, let's say, and film theater, Pulkit, thank you. So like, let's say you enter the movie hall and you have been few minutes late, and you're seeing that there is a, like, a dog that is chasing a man, and the dog looks fierce and it's going to bite the man. And like the man is running, oh God, save, save, and that like is shouting, oh help, help, and it's just running, and the dog is just running and is about to bite, and you're like, God knows what's happening. And a poor guy, he can just get bitten. And you're like, oh God, he can just get bitten. He should run little harder. Oh, he should just board the bus and just run harder and catch the bus which is about to pass by. And it's like, a sea beach. And next to the sea beach, there's a road. And like, you can see all that. And then this man is just running. And suddenly the dog is able to catch hold of this man, pounce on him and bite him multiple times. Okay, here, there, everywhere. And you're like, you're kind of disappointed, right? Why? Because your innate sense, your conscience guides you to be kind, guides you to be compassionate, guides you to be, let everyone live peacefully, let everyone let not anyone get, like, hurt unnecessarily, right? So you have that innate sense of peacefulness, calmness, right, ease. Now let me flip the situation. Suppose you enter the movie hall in the right time, and as you enter the movie hall, you see that there is a girl, she is chilling by the beach and she is looking like from a vulnerable section. And this girl, she is just relaxing and she's feeling so happy, seeing the sun, seeing the glistening morning light on the water. And as she's just chilling, there is a man who's just entered the scene, and this person is eve teasing the girl. And as he's eve teasing and making, like, some kind of sadist jokes, or maybe like, some kind of like remarks, so this girl is getting offended, but she is unable to respond. In this situation, what happens is, like, let us consider she has a dog, and the dog realizes that the girl is not uncomfortable, and the girl, she just whistles and the dog comes, and now the dog is alert, and the man is like suddenly threatened that, oh my God, and he starts running. And the dog, because the man had made certain gestures which were unwelcoming, so, and the dog could see that the gestures are something which are making the girl uncomfortable, and now there is a whistle, a mark to chase the man. So he is chasing the man. And now this time, because you have heard the dialogues and you have heard the ill remarks this man was making, what all stuff he was saying or aspiring to do, so you, this time, you really want the dog to bite. And you're like, just run and just get a good, like, pounce over this man and just grab this person's, like, ass or leg or something like that, and just take a good bite of him, right? So you actually subconsciously start, like, wanting this person to get hurt or to learn a lesson in some or the other manner, right? So that's the subconscious tendency that we have, okay, when we are talking about it. So there is an innate sense. I mean, it is not something that has to be taught academically. The conscience or our sense of right and wrong is something which is innately present in all of us. Okay, it gets sharpened by the process of socialization. It gets sharpened by the way we get exposed to values, ethos, as we evolve as human beings, in our cultural background, in our social background, in our academic background, through education, teachers, philosophers, seniors, parents. Anyone and everyone is nourishing us around us, okay, by all the right and wrong that they say and do. As simple as that. Yes, Shanavas, conscience, the term which is used in Article 25, I'll be talking about it when we are taking the chapter or the subtopic of conscience. Right now, I'm not teaching conscience. I'm just connecting it with source of ethics. Okay. You'll also connect it when Indira Gandhi spoke of voice of conscience. Listen to your voice of conscience before voting. When the presidential election was happening, right, in 1970s. If you speak of it, so sab baad mein karenge, hai na? So that is something which I'll be talking about. Good, you are aware of it. That's really interesting that you are aware of it. But what is required is to take the things at the right time, because there we'll have the intellectual space to talk about conscience for almost half an hour or 40 minutes. Here it's just a brief, like, overview that how it is associated with ethics. Now, like when Nobita takes revenge and Jian is also given the feeling of ease. Okay, interesting. So, that's what we can say. Yes, it is called andar ki awaaz, inner voice, sixth sense, intuition. All those words are used for conscience. So ethics is the wisdom of judging the things that is right and wrong. Yes, and you have seen the, like, a lot of definitions associated with it, Ilma, towards the beginning, right? Okay. So when we are talking about it, a source of ethics, so sources, it can also be a logical or a rational way of like having a cost benefit analysis of our actions. What is right? How is it right? What will be the price that the society will pay? What is the price that we will have to pay in the long run, in the short run? So it is also associated with some kind of analysis, logical analysis that we make. Again, we can see that the source of ethics can also be from the role models. That's why it is very important to live around people who are better than us, or notch better than us, because they always inspire us to grow better, to get exposed, to, like, make an extra effort. That is something that we can talk about, right? Again, you can see there is this question that was asked, that which eminent personality has inspired you the most, okay, in the context of ethical conduct in life. Okay, give the gist of his or her teachings, giving specific examples, describe how you have been able to apply these teachings for your own ethical development. Now, what is this source of ethics? So, source of ethics, personality can be also a source of ethics. You can see that, right? And when we are saying personality can be a source of ethics, so it has been asked as a question. So this is a combination question. It is a combination of, like, at least two chapters, I can say. First and foremost, the chapter, we can say, the foundational values which have inspired you. So those values, from where they are coming. So, like, you can take up any example. You can take example from, like, some contemporary leader or thinker like APJ Abdul Kalam or Mahatma Gandhi. You can take it from some other sources as well. I remember one of my students, when this question was asked in 2014, he wrote as a, like, eminent personality inspiring you. So he wrote about Krishna. Okay, and he wrote that how Krishna and his interpretations and his speeches given in Bhagavad Gita helped this child to overcome ethical dilemmas and moral crisis in situations pertaining to confusion and the challenges that an individual experiences in day-to-day life. So he gave the list of teachings that he got, and how those list of teachings were helpful in different situations in that student's life. So, like, giving a gist of the teaching and specific examples how you have been able to apply the teachings in your own ethical development. This is what. So, like, and interestingly, the student got quite good marks. It was like in late 130s, 136 or 138, something like that. So it was quite a formidable way. So it does not matter whether you are picking an icon. It can be a sports person, it can be a social leader, a political leader. See to it the person is not so controversial, and see to it that the person is someone who has been respected over the time period. Don't pick controversial names, because if your examiner does not appreciate that person subconsciously, or is aware of a lot of negative aspects of that person, it can backfire, because the examiner will be, because when you're choosing a personality and you are getting inspired by that personality, so that means that you are exposed about the like, I would say, the strengths and weakness of that personality. So the examiner will have an inkling that if the strengths have inspired the person, somewhere the weakness can also impact this individual. So see to it that you take a neutral example, an apolitical example, an example that does not trigger any kind of controversy, or I would say any kind of I would say confusion per se. All right. So this is, we can see that how, yes, you can we talk about our mother. Yes, you can talk about your mother, but please remember there is a word called eminent. So if your mother is quite an eminent person, without mentioning that she is your mother, you can bring her in the scenario, because the examiner does not know, if like let us say the person is not so popular and the examiner does not know the person, then that can be an issue, because you have to pay attention to every single word of the question. Eminent personality, eminent means the person should be known, popular, and everyone should be knowing about that person on an average. So eminent personality, then inspiring you, then ethical conduct in life, and then the gist of that person's like I would say teachings, gist of his or her teachings. Teachings means how the person has carried forward his or her conduct in thought, in action, okay, how the person has inspired. Then examples that how that person's personality, thought, speech, philosophy has inspired you in day to day life, right? So it can be from any possibility. Yes, it can be from like a religion also. Shanavas, you can pick it from anywhere. Yes, you can take like Gautam Buddha as well. All right, so that is something which you can reflect upon. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, so when we are discussing about like source of ethics, and here as we are carrying forward with our discussion, we all can see that there is this specific diagram which I have exposed you with. First and foremost, you can see there is this segment of beliefs. After beliefs, you can see there is this segment of values. After values, you can see attitudes. And after attitudes, you can see human behavior. So let us first understand that how, when we are talking about this given dimension associated with our formation of ethics and how it is like getting created, let us try to understand this first and foremost. So beliefs, what are beliefs? Beliefs are those ideas that we are holding to be true. So beliefs, when we speak of it, beliefs can be two types. One can be strong belief, second can be peripheral belief, right? So like let's say strong beliefs which we believe in, which we consider as correct when we are talking about it. So beliefs are basically a set of, I would say, information which is associated with our internal feelings, okay, and those internal feelings can be unproven, cannot be, not necessarily that you can prove it, it can be unproven, it can be sometimes irrational, okay, but when we are talking about it, is belief is associated with that information or that idea which we feel to be true, which we feel to be correct, which we feel that this is worthy of holding or moving ahead with. So and that's why you can see that beliefs, when they are strong or peripheral, accordingly they influence. For example, if you talk about constitutional values or constitutional beliefs from a standard 10th child, there's a fair situation that a standard 10th kid may not be able to talk about constitutional beliefs, or maybe the child, after getting exposed to civics, can talk about two or three constitutional beliefs, because it is a peripheral belief for the child, not the most important or core belief which has shaped the personality of the child. But you ask about the child's caste or religion, the person will be able to talk about it, right, to a certain extent. Talk about any regular adult who may not be like so very academically exposed. Ask that person about the caste or religion, the person will have a belief about it. But ask the person about the constitution, the person may not be so very well posted about it when we are talking about it, right? So that is what beliefs are. These beliefs, okay, in these beliefs, the strong beliefs, they over the time period, they can form our values. How? So beliefs, when we are talking about it, beliefs are cognitions. Okay, so beliefs are cognitions. For beliefs, other word which we can use is cognition. So the cognition or the belief is doing what? The cognition, when it is mixed with strong emotion, mind it, strong, okay, so when it is mixed with strong emotion, that is something which is framing our value. And what is value? Values are those, we can say, ideals, perspectives which we consider to be very important for us, okay, so they are very important for us when we are talking about it. So, and there can be different types of values which can prevail in a society. Like let's say, if we are talking about economic values, okay, means values having economic orientation. So there can be capitalism, there can be socialism, right? So capitalism is an economic value or socialism is an economic value. In capitalism, you'll talk about individual freedom, you'll talk about individual business, you'll talk about regulation free market. Whereas in socialism, you'll talk about focus on equality, focus on justice, focus on distribution of resources for all. You'll focus more on proportional this distribution of goods or resources as per people's need, right? So these are different, I would say, economic beliefs. Similarly, economic values when we speak of it, right? So in the similar manner, cognition when we are talking about it, cognition मतलब होता है belief, pawan और विश्वास, ठीक है? Please be more attentive in the class, because when I explain it, okay, when I explain it, I want all of you to be alert, okay, so that none of the students is like scratching the head, just being like, हाँ अच्छा ठीक है, suddenly मैं technical कुछ समझा रही हूँ, and as I'm explaining something technical, the child's like, हाँ, what happened? What was that? I could not grab it. Come again, once again, मुजरा फिर से शुरू हो जाए, हमने तो मिस कर दिया, तो ये बदमाशी नहीं होनी चाहिए, okay? Be all the time alert and focused. Preparation is all about, like, being in a meditative state, and meditative state means being alert at all times. I repeat myself once again, the same concept, but this time I expect all of you to be present in the moment, okay, and give your best. So, because as a teacher, I'm not only supposed to give you content, I'm also supposed to motivate you with the virtuous values that you need to possess as a future aspirant, right? Suppose you go to the interview, and suppose after a few questions you are getting relaxed, and one of the board members asks something from you, and then you are not alert, so you're like, huh, what was that? And you're again asking, sir, please repeat your question. It's okay, they will repeat the question, but you will come across as a person with low levels of attention. There can be a possibility that you're listening to a question and you are taking time to process it, so you can always ask that, please give me a few minutes, sir or ma'am, that can I just consider the answer, and they'll be like, yes, that's not backfiring against you, that is in your favor, that you are a person who contemplates before responding, you're a thinking individual, so that falls in your favor. But if you're asking the examiner to repeat the question by and by, that shows poor level of attention. That's why learn how to be in a meditative state, right? This is something which is advisable to a lot of students, and I could sense it, that it was not a concern of 3 or 4 students who were like, please repeat it once again. I could sense it, this is a problem of at least 15 to 20% students in the class, so just be attentive. I repeat myself, when we are talking about this given possibility associated with how, like, like our ethos or our sense of right and wrong gets formed, how do we create our sense of right and wrong? So I said that first and foremost, the sense of right and wrong, it starts with our belief system. What is belief? So belief is cognition. Cognition means, you've heard the word recognize, recognize, you can see that the breakup, recognize, right? So re means again, cognize means when you are identifying with something. So when I'm saying cognition, cognition is what? Cognition, something with which we can identify. So something with which we can identify means, like, let us consider our sense of understanding towards caste. So by birth, were you born with a caste or a religion? No. As you evolved in the society, on the basis of the family in which you were born, you were exposed to the idea of what is your caste, what is your religion, what is your gender, right? You are born as a biological being. But over the time period, today, you identify with a religion, and you're very clear why you identify with the religion, why you consider it to be guiding you, why you don't follow other forms of religion, you follow a specific pattern of religion, right? So it is a part of your belief, your idea with which you are identifying, idea with which you are holding to be true. And it's not necessary that every belief will be rational, every belief will be correct. Mind it, logically it's not necessary that every belief will be correct, but for you it will be correct, okay? Like, for example, if someone considers my religion is very scientific, or my religion is very humane, or my religion is, like, very benevolent, so can the person necessarily prove it with logic? No, not necessary, because there can be counter examples also of fundamentalism, of maybe violence, of maybe abuse, of maybe discrimination, which individuals or followers who misinterpreted the thought processes, they did not exercise the religion correctly. That is possible. But we form a belief, and when the belief is too strong, so strong में मैंने आपको example क्या दिया? We have, like, our belief related to caste, related to religion, okay, for example, related to caste, related to religion, we have strong belief. Peripheral belief, like constitutional beliefs. So I said that you ask a standard 10th child about his caste or religion, the child will have a strong belief compared to the constitutional belief. You ask the person, what are the constitutional beliefs that you believe in? And the child, either, if the child is not so academically competent, may not recall, and there is a possibility that if a child is, like, let's say, is able to think, then maybe relatively less number of beliefs the child can recall, right? So when we are talking about beliefs are what? They are cognition. Cognition means something with which you can identify, okay? Something with which we can identify, okay? So something with which we can, just a second, identify. cognition. All right, I hope you're understanding this now. So beliefs leads to values, as you can see in the diagram. Okay, so beliefs leads to values. Print out निकाल लेना सचिन, तो तुम्हें clear दिखने लगेगा. All right. So, and please clear लिखो, I'm not your friend, लिखिए. That's the language, standard official language. Because when you get into the system and if you address your DIG or IG, sir, ये काम कर दो. So they will first address you how to correct your language. Okay, either speak in English, or if you're speaking in Hindi, then learn how to speak official language, because I'm neither your parent nor your elder sibling. So this is an official situation, and this is how you learn how to grab official clarity about how to speak with seniors, because this is the only space 3.5 hours when you learn how to speak to seniors, with friends, with parents, or with like other social environment. You don't get an opportunity to live an official life, right? Here is the time when you can practice official language, either and preferably always try to speak in English. If you have doubts, it is associated with all the students. The reason is you learn how to think in English. The greatest problem with North Indian English medium students is they think in Hindi, translate it in English, and that also eats their time, in which they think is in Hindi. If you are one of them, any one of you is one of them, please work on this aspect. Start thinking first and foremost in English. If it is taking time, at least make a conscious effort to interact in English, raise your questions and concerns in English. All right. Now, so as we are moving ahead, so with respect to this, when we are talking about it, uh, now, so as we are talking about this given dimension, you all can like zoom this in your screen. You can also take a printout of it, so you'll be able to like make the best use of this. All right. Most important thing is in your answer, you don't need to write all the fringe areas which I'm writing on the borders. This is for you. In the answer, the actual thing which has been typed by me, I actually drew this and I typed this. Okay. So this diagram is something which is to be made in the exam. That will be important for all of you. All right. So when we are talking about this given dimension, yes, beliefs are associated with faith, and faith is something which is not necessarily logical, ilma. So belief here is also associated with faith. Okay. Now, so when we are talking about this given dimension, we can also like given um, Maithili, did I like not speak in English all this? Only I speak jokes and jargons in Hindi. Be very conscious. This is like associated with all South Indian students, especially from Tamil Nadu, because I believe other parts of India do understand Hindi, except jokes, and that too one-liner jokes. Any official thing which I speak is in English. All right, Maithili? So if you're saying that if you could respond only in English, your responses will never go in like Hindi. Be very confident. And if any student is writing in Hindi, I read it in Hindi. All right. It's not that I have written it in Hindi. So you will have to be little compassionate and adjusting to your other classmates, because your other classmates do have different levels of acumen, and that's how you become as a matured person, as a greater and a bigger person, how to handle yourself in a community. It's not about a person, it's about a larger class, right, that we have to address. Now, so with respect to this, when we are talking about it, Shiva, don't pop up with this thing, how to make notes in this subject. I have discussed it some time back. So you should start the session from the very beginning. All right. Aditya, a lot of questions are coming up. So I'll write this or not, print it. Yeah, you should take a printout. All right. Please remember, Aditya and any other student, if I'm unable to, Ajay, everything technical is explained in English. All right. Any technical thing cannot be explained in Hindi because it's an English medium batch, not a bilingual medium batch. Please understand this. And anyway, in mains exam, you'll be writing in English, right? So why do you want to listen to the explanation in Hindi? I mean, don't you think that you listen to explanation in Hindi? And I really desist bilingual batches. At many platforms, I've heard people go for bilingual batches. You know how much intellectual damage is created because of that? A student listens to the explanation in Hindi, develops the concept in Hindi, and gets all the technical terms in English, revises in English, understands in Hindi, and in the exam or test, ask the student what kind of dilemma the child undergoes. All right, Ajay? So please do not try to understand the concepts in Hindi, beta. Okay? Just focus on learning the terms technically correct, as well as the right set of words that should be used in your answer. Now let us get into this. Peripheral means side, okay, something which is not core, something which is on the borders, on the side. Okay, now with respect to this, values. So with our beliefs, the beliefs that we hold, our values get formed. So how do get values get formed? This cognition, which all of you can see, this cognition plus emotion. So when the cognition meets a lot of strong emotion, that forms our values. Okay. So what is values? Values are the things that are important for us. Okay. Things that are important for us, which we consider is something which we should always follow. Like for example, if someone holds, like I shared this example a few minutes back, that if someone holds that for the economic functioning of a country, socialist government is better. So for such a person, the person will be having the value of socialism in his or her thought process, because the person feels that socialism brings greater justice, equality, empathy, like, distribution of resources to the needy in a better way compared to a capitalist economy. Whereas a person who's supporting capitalist value, the person will be like, oh, with capitalist values there is better competency, there is greater importance to individual rights, there is greater freedom for individual needs, the individual can have a free say in the market, there is a regulation free competition in the market, so it gives like a level playing field for everyone, small or big player, anyone who's producing good services in a cost benefit manner or cost efficient manner, that person's business shall thrive. So our sets of values are representative of our beliefs plus emotions. Beliefs, when met with strong emotions, then that is something which forms our values. To begin with, mind it, there is much more to human values. Okay, human values we'll be learning little later. First, I'm just associating the concept that how the very phenomena unfolds before all of us in terms of formation of our ethics. Okay, so these values, they lead to formation of our attitude. When I say attitude, cognition was what? Belief. Cognition plus emotion was what? It was value, if you can recall, right? So cognition means what we think to be correct, okay, what we hold to be correct. Then our strong emotion plus our behavior, okay, plus our behavior in a given situation forms our attitude. So that means what? How do we approach a specific, how do we approach a specific situation, or how do we act upon a situation? That is something which is creating what? It is creating our attitude. So like, let me give this given situation. We can have favorable or disfavorable attitude towards something, okay, towards a person, a place, an object, or a thing. That is possible, and that can be associated with our present environment as well as past environment. It can be associated with anything. It can be a manifestation of our past and present, or past only or present only, either of it. Okay, okay, when we are speaking of it. So like, when we are talking about this given possibility associated with our attitude, so attitude is something which is inclining us to do something, okay, inclining us to do something. For example, like, let us say, if suppose I really like the batting style of Virat Kohli, or suppose I really like that the way this boy, he came back in his form, and the way he started scoring well, the way he made personality, strong personality changes in himself. Suppose that leads to a positive attitude inside me towards Virat Kohli. Okay, so first is cognition. Cognition means, no, this guy is a nice person, even though I don't know the person, okay, but this guy is a nice person. So this is cognition. Cognition means ideas which I hold to be true, which may not be based on logic. Okay, so I feel that, oh, he looks like an honest banda, he looks like a very honest person. So suppose that's a cognition. Then emotion. Oh yes, like, this boy, he really stands for the game. He upholds all the right values for good quality cricket. He maintains up to mark physical discipline. He is a well trained sports person. He focuses on quality training. He focuses on quality food habits. Okay, so then I have cognition plus strong emotion towards him. Then what will be my attitude? Suppose there is a match which this cricketer is going to play tomorrow. So my attitude will be favorable. I will have a higher chance to watch his match. Are you getting it? That's attitude. Attitude is how we are approaching the situation, how we are inclined to act. That is attitude, our inclination, our approach. Okay, now finally what we behave is not only dependent on attitude. Attitude plus situations determines our final behavior. Like, for example, let's say tomorrow is Virat Kohli's final match. Maybe, like, he is the captain. Suppose I'm saying, suppose he's the captain. Suppose he's going to play World Cup. Okay, and tomorrow is the final match. And suppose tomorrow is my mains exam. Now situation is not favorable. So my human behavior will not be in favor of wasting 2 hours or 4 hours whatsoever to watch a cricket match. What I'll do is, after every half an hour, I'll just ask the score. And I'll say that once my mains exam is over, then I will watch the entire match. Though I know that I will be knowing that what is the final result, but I'll prefer to watch the match later, not risk it with my mains exam. So situations, attitude plus situations determines our human behavior, how we are really going to act. All right. I hope you are able to understand this, right? So I hope all of you are able to understand this. Okay. So Utkarsh, what you're asking is not directly connected with what we are discussing. Can we take this up little later, right? Okay. So now, so as all of you are able to understand this human behavior, when that human behavior creates a feedback that further builds our belief. So our human behavior is something which is determining our belief, our future course of action, our future sense of right and wrong, how we will go ahead with prioritizing different situations, actions, thought processes is something that is there. Yes, you can use this diagram in your exam as well. Okay, Misbah. So as you all are building upon it, I have given you some basic explanation related to these terms. Okay, theoretical explanation. So all those students were like, "Hi, saaf likho, ye karo, wo karo." All those students who wanted clarity, you have this. So I have explained this: beliefs, what they are; values, what they are. Okay, I was explaining all of it, so you can see this: values. So beliefs, values, when we are talking about it, and attitude, we have a full chapter. Very briefly, I have discussed it over here. As you can see, attitude is how we approach a situation. So that's what, how we approach a situation. So you can just see that. Okay. Feedback again creates beliefs. Yes, feedback shapes our beliefs. Feedback, like, designs our beliefs. It means that if we change the belief, then social engineering can be done. Yes, a lot of changes can be done. How is ego different from attitude? Ego, I don't know how you are perceiving the word, right? So when we are talking about ego is associated with individual also in the world of academics. Ego is associated with being headstrong. Ego is associated with our elementary animal instinct to behave. So I don't understand others that for you what is the word ego implying right now. Okay, now you must be realizing that words cannot be used casually. In the world of academics, there are specific technical meanings associated with these words. They are technical jargons, not to be used casually. All right, anyway. So when we are talking about it, so belief, when we are talking about it, so you can find a lot of insights associated with it. So belief, can you give an example? Didn't I give an example over here that we have beliefs related to our religion and caste, right? So Prakhar, and human behavior, you can just alter the situation. Like, let's say a person is having a strong opinion about one's caste or religion, then a person forms a value about one's religion, that like, how rational or logical it is. Then what will be the attitude? The attitude will be like more favorable towards one's religion. So if there is a religious meeting, procession, prayer, festival, the person will have a higher tendency to participate. But the situation, if there is an exam, the person may not participate so very actively. So the human behavior will determine that how the person will further uh, build a belief system. Like, let's say if the person has a very strong attitude and the human behavior is strongly favorable towards that specific act, then the person's belief system will grow stronger, and other kind of related beliefs will also get like strengthened accordingly. Okay, so that's there, that's how we evolve as human beings when we are talking about it. Okay, now when we are using the word values, because we were discussing about this term values over here, as you can see. So values, what are they? They are important and lasting beliefs or ideas. Important, why they are important and lasting beliefs? Because there's a strong emotion which is associated with our beliefs, which is forming our values. Okay, values are also associated with the idea of good or bad, or desirable, undesirable. Values we gain from our environment, family, from our educational institutions, larger society. Values are associated with standards, like what should be done. Okay, we can also see that our values can also come from, like, seniors, from religious institutions, all of it. We can also assign negative values. Negative values like telling a lie is a negative value for me. Okay, not being punctual is a negative value. Kidnapping, insulting, any such crime can be a negative value when we speak of it. Okay, and values, when we are talking about it, so what they will be? They will be like guiding principle. We can say that they will be guiding principle which is constantly influencing one's behavior. Okay, one more thing which I would like to highlight for all of you is this, that please remember this at all times. Please remember this at all times, that you have to use these technical language. This technical language or this technical jargon has to come in your answer. No shortcuts. Don't try to write your own version or your own language. Remember in your school days when the teacher used to say that when you copy the language of the book, out of 5 marks, you used to get 5 marks. But when you were writing in your own language, even though the content was correct, you were given 4 marks. 1 marks was cut. Was it only for rote learning? No. It is also because you learn academic language. How else will you develop academic language? Also, academic language brings profoundness, clarity, technicality in your answer. So I know that majority of you stopped working on your vocabulary, expression, or phrasal language or development of language in totality after standard 8th or 9th, because 10th board pressure. Then standard 12th, you had to get into some engineering college or commerce or humanities related college. Humanities students still to a certain extent they work on their language, because in humanities language does play an important role. But commerce and science students, they majorly do away with it. Again, Like in graduation, majority of you did not need to work on your language. So majority of you are standing with a language which is of a standard 8th kid or a standard 9th kid. So it is an earnest request to all of you that don't try to write in your own words, try to grab the exact expression from the notes, memorize that expression and write in this language. All right, that will fetch you better marks. Fine. Now, so with respect to this, when we are talking about it, we can also further ahead, move ahead, and then see the difference between values and ethics. All right. Few other students who are like bringing in some smaller queries, because I'm getting a lot of queries, but I'm just purposefully choosing to take it up little later, like that is after break, so that, like, we finish a sizable chunk just before the break. All right, that's my purpose, just this bit, okay, values and ethics, so that this component is clear. Because like a lot of you keep writing, and the thing is that I can respond to it only when I leave what is being discussed. So this is more important right now, because we are in the process of understanding values and ethics. So what is values? Values gives us an insight what is important for us. Important, mind the keyword. And ethics is what is right, what is wrong. Values is associated with what I need to achieve, and ethics is associated with correct action. Values may differ from person to person, or I can also say community to community. Whereas we can also see that ethics is generally considered, usually, mind the word usually, not always, because there is also a term I'll be teaching you after the break, that is ethical relativism. So ethics, usually it is considered to be universal. Values, it motivates us to do a specific action, whereas ethics, it imposes constraints. What are the do's and what are the don'ts, what we should not do and what we ought to do. Okay, so this is associated with should, and this is associated with ought, in other words, if we speak of it, right? So this is something that all of you need to memorize when we are speaking of it. Further, you'll find all the more words and all the more comparisons. See this, I have created one more comparative chart. Here I have created a comparison between these three elements, as you can see, comparison between ethics, morals, and values. Okay, so you can find a lot of other segments also associated with what is right, what is wrong. When I'm talking about ethics and morals, ekdam simple language mein. Ethics, when we are talking about it, what is ethics? So ethics is associated with larger society. So it can also be called social morality. And what is morals? Morals are associated with individual. Okay, so it can be also called individual ethics when we speak of it. Okay, so when we are talking about it, ethics and morality, let us reflect upon this given segment, that ethics, what is it? So ethics is the guiding principle which is helping us to conduct, which is helping us to understand what are the do's and don'ts that we should do for an individual or a group, what should be done. Okay, whereas morals are our individual choices, our individual sense of right and wrong that we have developed, our own sense of right and wrong that we have created. Okay, again, when we speak of ethics, ethics is associated with professional ethics, like doctors ethics, lawyers ethics, teachers ethics. It can be associated with any specific field, an organization, a company also has its own ethics, right? Whereas the individual sense of morality, our individual sense of right or wrong, okay, our individual sense of right or wrong is associated with our society, our culture, our religion, in which we can consider we are born, because our culture is also influencing our sense of right and wrong, the society is influencing our sense of right and wrong, religion is, like, influencing our sense of right and wrong. That is something which all of you can connect with. All right, so again, I think Chintan is unable to see the message also. SME, please try to reach out to him in other ways, because this child is struggling with his device, it seems. Okay. Now, so when we are talking about it, we can also say that, again, with respect to ethics, when we talk about it, so it is related to your professional work also, and morality is associated with our private lives. Okay. Our private sense of right and wrong. So it's not related to professional work. Again, ethics, when we are talking about it, is uniform. Why uniform? Because it is relatively more common, more universal, whereas morals are what? Individual in nature. They are private. Okay, so because they are private, you can find that it can differ as per culture and religion. Okay, I hope all of you are able to understand this. Okay, so ethics and morality, and you are able to also connect between ethics and values. So I'll look through all the questions which you people have taken up, the prime few questions which are there, we will be talking about. Can we say values is an advanced stage of beliefs? Yes, definitely, Pulkit. Values is an advanced stage of beliefs, and attitude is an advanced stage of values, because you form your attitude on the basis of your values, and your attitude shapes your human behavior, how you would act, right? Okay, so this is there. Anyway, attitude is there, a chapter which we will be talking about. How religion influences your morality, your sense of right or wrong related to eating non-veg. So if you're a Jain, like, oh my God, you should never kill an animal. But if you are a person belonging to Shaktism in Hinduism, or you are following Islam, or you're following Christianity, there's no sense of guilt in terms of eating an animal's meat. Simple, right? So religion influencing our sense of right and wrong. So that's also there, right? All right. So we will be continuing with this session again. You can meanwhile reflect upon the segments which I have shown to all of you. This is something which I'm giving you as a homework. You can read this sheet and you can just come across the comparison between ethics, morals, and values, which we have discussed so far. We will start with our segment associated with differentiating between law and ethics, like ethics and religion, ethics in terms of the determinants of ethics. So all that stuff we'll start after the break. So let's take a 15 minutes break and be back. So it's 7:54 going by our official clock. So I will be resuming after 15 minutes. All right. So this is it. Thank you. All right. So, can you tell me, is your example correct? Climate change as industrialization is favorable and its impact on environment is unfavorable for all of us. And now the attitude is mitigation effort. Yes, 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 definitely. So it's like mitigation effort is the attitude for those who are concerned about environment, those who have values of environmentalism, ILMA, not everyone. So a person having a belief that environment should be protected, and the person over the time period develops a value of environmentalism, and that person will further develop an attitude to save the environment, so go for peaceful negotiations, and then further like all the changes per se. All right. Okay. Zeba, the difference between ethics and morals is ethics are social standards. Morals are your individual sense of understanding. So society says what is right? So the society says what is morally correct, what ought to be followed, what is honesty. But are you as honest as society has taught you to be? As books have taught you to be? There can be manipulation, right? So how you are manipulating the idea of truth, of honesty, right? So the way you behave with honesty is like your morals, and the social standards of how a person ought to be honest is ethics. All right, so a lot of questions now. There are 40, 50 questions. God knows how much of, like, if I keep giving answers to these questions, it will take the second half of the break anyway. Let me just try to do as much as possible. So beliefs are shaping that auspicious that पहले छोटा क्वेश्चन लिखना सीखो बच्चों. So Deepika, as you've written, can we relate the previous topic of beliefs, value shaping our attitude, eventually our behavior, to feeding those in need on auspicious religious? Yes, 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 definitely. But you have to understand, first it's a belief. The belief, when it is strengthened with emotions, becomes values. When those values get strengthened with, further we can consider our inclinations, that is something which is shaping our or our approach, that is shaping our attitude, and further that attitude is shaping our behavior. So that's what, Deepika, you need to think. So can attitude means how we behave? Yes. And can we that's Shalu, and then after that Prakhar is saying, no, but still we want to be close to Nobita. Why? Oh, Nobita and Shizuka type of questions right now, Prakhar, are not possible to handle. So please excuse me for that, because of a lot of more theoretical and formal questions. No one is going to ask about Shizuka and Nobita. So let us call it pass for the time being. All right. How is spirit different from wisdom? Well, spirit is something which is the final outcome of wisdom. All right, Pulkit. So then further value of hard work can be there. Value of hard work, yes, value of hard work is there. Then a person becomes committed, and further the person becomes dedicated. Okay, so commitment and dedication is associated with that. What is the difference between morals and values? Again, there is a difference between morals and values. Abhinash, with respect to values again will be social standards. They are social standards of what is right, what is wrong, what should be done. Okay, and when we are talking about the possibility of morals are your own individual understanding and your own individual choice of what is right, what is wrong. All right, so that's what. Character comes from culture. It means that moral is the base of ethics. Character does come from our culture, and when character is coming from our culture, it is shaping our morals. So somewhere ethics, social ethics, do shape our individual morals, though it does not shape exactly in the same manner the way our, I would say, um, ethics have been trained or taught to us, because we have our own individual manipulations. That's why morals are not always exactly the same as ethics or values are, because we incorporate our own individual manipulations. All right. So can morals be negative? No, morals cannot be negative. Morals cannot be negative for the simple reason that moral is your individual sense of right and wrong. Simple. Okay. So when it is your individual sense of right and wrong, so morals cannot be negative. If a person is not having morals, the person is immoral. Immoral means not having morals, because morals itself means that you have some sense of right and wrong. Okay, if it is negative, then it is called immoral. Deepika, belief is correct to its holder but incorrect for others. No, that's also an absolute opinion, Shalu. Beliefs are correct for the holder. They may or may not be correct for others. For example, if you are religious, it may be correct for your parents, it may be correct for your neighbors, it may be correct for your relatives, right? And if someone's beliefs are getting too regimented, suppose a person who is hardcore fundamentalist, for someone around him or her, for that person, that fundamentalist belief would be fine, right? It is only that in the larger scenario you see that that kind of belief is not correct. So beliefs, the moment you say that it is like incorrect for others, it's a faulty opinion. There can be correct beliefs also, beliefs for being disciplined, for being punctual, for being upright, right? Again, is moral part of ethics? Yes, definitely it is a part of ethics. It's an individual ethics. इसीलिए यहाँ पे देखो लिखा भी है राहुल, है ना? You can see this is clearly mentioned that it is a part of individual ethics. Are morals and values the same? No, morals and values are not the same. Again, I have given you a comparative chart, Pawan, so you're supposed to go through it. So in exam, can question come related to definition? Yes, Misbah. I mean, rather than asking what is ethics, they can just like connect you with the idea of how ethics have shaped your thought process and personality. Okay, so in that first, you have a tendency to define what is ethics. So that's how it is there. So uh, teachers, what hardcore fundamentalists? What are hardcore fundamentalists? People who are empowering or educating others with, we can say, hate speech towards other religions, and those who consider that their religion is superior or better than that of others, and those who see fundamentalism initially starts with when you go to fundamentals of your religion. There's no harm in getting back to the fundamentals of your religion, but in the process, when you start saying that my fundamentals are best and better than all others, there is a sense of superiority that you attain. With that sense of superiority, a sense of separation gets created. With the sense of separation, there is a sense of ethnocentrism, that I'm superior than that of others. And with that starts a sense of, I would say, friction with others, that if someone is not following my religion, the person is not so good or not so up to mark or somewhere inferior. So that's the problem. All right, I hope the term is clear. Fundamentalism is clear. So morals and beliefs are almost the same thing? No, Pulkit. Morals and beliefs are not the same thing. Morals are standards of right and wrong, whereas beliefs are your identifications. What are you identifying with? So you can identify with any thought also, no? A thought which may not necessarily be based on right or wrong. It is just a thought, right? Suppose someone believes in caste system. So that's not the person's morals. It's not a sense of right and wrong. It's just that I identify with this community. Are you getting it? So that's what. Difference between morals and values, there is this the given diagram that has been given. Difference between morals and, sorry, morals and values अगर चाहिए तो ये वाला diagram उठाओ और इसको club कर दो. So values, when we are talking about it, और यहाँ पर भी आपको दिख रहा है, ये भी एक आपको diagram मैंने दे रखा है. So here also you all can see this given dimension associated with values and associated with morals. So you can just compare the two, those students who are thinking about it. So values are again social standards associated with shaping our sense of right and wrong. Values can be individual as well as community based, group based. Okay. And when we are talking about morals, morals are our individual set of right and wrong. They are more associated with our own individuality, our own individual sense of right and wrong. Okay, always remember moral. So we used to have in school no moral science class. We didn't have value science class. We didn't have ethics science class. Moral science, because individually the impact that has to be created for you, your own sense of right and wrong, that has to be like created. Fundamentalists are in sense extremists or radicals. Yes, fundamentalists in their evolved level become extremists or radicals. Okay, with the Petter statement that if we have right from constitution, then after who will decide it is ethical or not? Sometimes it is not violation of rule. Shanvas, the language that in which you have typed the question, the grammar is going haywire, which is making no sense. So please retype it with the correct grammar. I cannot sense what you have written. So confused with Petter statement that I have right, नहीं समझ में आ रहा है मुझे कुछ, इसको ठीक से लिखो, ठीक है? So which is more personal, morals or values? Morals, because in morals we can create manipulations. Okay, though morals are our own individual standards of right and wrong. Okay, so in values you can see that there is a definite influence of social ethos or organizational values, or we can say like a group or a community's values. So that's what. No, Dangar, I cannot do that. You cannot instruct me that please stop queries and start teaching, because if it was your query, you would have been triggered that mera question nahi liya. Right? So please be compassionate. That's what I had said in the first half for another student, that even if you find that something is different, okay, being discussed, but please understand it is necessary for many of your friends. If I see that it's one query or it is an individual query, I am like, okay, this is like Nobita wala question. I'm like, this is like something very individual and will never be asked. So like this is something when we have luxury of time, then I can take such queries and I can enjoy. But the thing is, right now, because it's your first session, everyone is trained and struggling with basic concepts, and the like comparison between, like, let's say ethics or values or morals, this is not a concern of one student. At least 10% to 15% of the class struggles with the same words. So you have to be little understanding, Dangar. Okay. So contemplation, thinking on observation. Yeah, I mean, Shalu, for these things, please consult the dictionary. What you're saying is correct, but don't type the meanings for me because already I'm like time pressed. Yes, exercising patience is also a moral behavior. Agreed. So, all right, fine. All of you are understanding this. So, Misbah, synonym of ethics. Why were you absent when I was discussing this? This is something which I had given towards the beginning of the session. So why were you absent when this was being discussed? Meaning of ethics, definition of ethics, root word of ethics, that proves that you were ill disciplined. And when it was being taught, you were not there, right? Next time, please be disciplined and present when the lecture starts. Because, for starting your lecture, I have to get up at 4:30 to be here at 6 in time. 40 minutes of drive, and you have to get up and then get ready and all that stuff. So please respect the possibility of the commitment that you have made, that you will be present at 6 a.m. Okay, if any one of you is absent at any given time, then you will struggle with this chapter, because this chapter is not the one you have studied in school days. Ethics, integrity, aptitude is not a subject which has been taught ever in your life. For the first time, you are studying it formally. So being absent in the class or entering the lecture late is going to create a flimsy sense of understanding and perception. So it is an earnest request to all of you that please, be in time. Now, so with respect to this, when we are moving ahead further, SME, please support me with other smaller queries which students have raised. So when we are moving ahead with this given segment, morals. So what is morals? As I was discussing it with before break, and once again we take it up. So it is associated with a personal compass, our own individual understanding of right and wrong. It's a personal choice. For example, in Jainism, it has 5 principles. We can see that. So these are like moral guides, how an individual should live. Like 5 principles. One is truth, that is satya. Then there is non-violence, ahimsa. There's not stealing, that is asateya. Then there is celibacy, that is brahmacharya, and non-attachment, that is aparigraha. These 5 moral guides for an individual. But different individuals can practice it differently. For example, I can give you a sense of understanding that, right? So like, let's say there was this friend of mine who was a Jain, and in her society, in her community, in Rajasthan, it was practiced that one should not eat like okra or lady's finger, as you call it, whatever the word you choose, bhindi in Hindi, as people call it. So okra was something which was not consumed in her family or in her community around her. So when she came to hostel, what happened was that every time okra was prepared, she used to enjoy eating it. She's like, I love okra so much that, there used to be like a, we used to get chapatis from the counter, but after that, like, the pulses and vegetables used to be kept on the table. So how much so ever you want to eat, you could. So she used to go for dinner quite late, and she used to say that, please, let's go for dinner. So I used to accompany her and this girl. She used to go late so that majority of the people have left the hall and no one notices how much okra she can eat. So she used to barely have half chapati, but she used to take at least 4 or 5 ladlefuls of okra and eat it because she really liked it. Now here comes the issue of moral. The principle which she has been exposed to is, don't eat anything which may have life, that is even a seed. So she said that a lot of vegetables have been prohibited from consumption. One of them is okra in her society. So like, let's say, I'm not talking about here in terms of a broader Jain principle, but like, let us say, in as her family value or as her social ethics. Now all of you will understand the technical terms more clearly. So the social ethics and her family values encouraged her to practice non-violence or ahimsa by not eating okra on a on any basis, not regular basis, not at all, not eating okra, because seeds have life and okra has a lot of seeds inside it. Okay, so that was a vegetable which was not consumed in her family. But in the hostel, she exercised her own moral principle. She's like, eating vegetables is not committing crime, or it is not killing life. The vegetable has already been taken from the plant and it is drying, so it will not bear like plant. So I am okay with eating this specific vegetable. So she enjoyed eating okra, and that was her personal moral put to exercise, her own individual sense of right and wrong, which may not always be in consonance with her family value or her social ethics. Are you understanding this? So values most of the times, okay, values most of the times are in consonance with the ethics and values. Okay, morals, our individual morals are most of the times in consonance with the ethics and values that we are exposed to. All right, except sometimes when we manipulate or modify our morals. I hope all of you are able to understand the difference. Morals, huh? However, ultimately it is the individual choice. This is what I was talking about. Individual choice of which morals do they actually follow. So that's your choice, your sense of right and wrong. Hence, morals are what? The principles of right behavior which we use to judge human character. So, morals, when we are talking about it, morals are our own prevailing sense of standards of behavior. Why prevailing? Because we are enacting upon it. Morals are dependent on our enactment, right? Aniket, let's not get into this, right? That Jains cannot enter the process of farming and stuff, or Buddhist cannot get into it. I mean, just ask yourself any statement that you type, that is it worthy of reading for me first. Second, is it academically important? Buddha used to say that before we exercise our speech, we should always use 5 steps. So right now, I'll not discuss that 5 steps. You just go and search it later once the class is over. What are the 5 steps that should be exercised before we exercise our speech? Okay. So one of them is it necessary? So is it necessary? No. So let us skip it, right? एग्जाम में भी नहीं लिखोगे फार्मर्स वाला लॉजिक, तो क्या जरूरत है उसको सोचने का भी. So what is the problem when we use all these words as synonyms? Always all these words as synonyms. Um, what is written here is something that you have to produce, right? Manoj, I cannot interpret what you imply by when we use all these words as synonyms. I mean, this is what you have to write. So what synonym are you talking about? I cannot understand that, right? So you have to like memorize this language. Manipulation of it will or changing the language will sometimes manipulate the technicality of the jargon. Because like for example, one of your friends in the first half asked about a question related to ego. So I said, which ego are you talking about? There are 3 different meanings of ego in the academic world. In the similar manner, if you're using synonym, and if it is not landing technically correct, which you don't know because your language is not so evolved, so in that situation, if the synonym is leading to a different meaning or interpretation, it will damage the answer itself. Okay, so that's why use any synonym only when you are very confident about its correctness and validity in the situation, right? Now, so enable people to live cooperatively in groups. Okay, it enables people to live cooperatively in groups. What? Morals gives us a sense, our understanding how to live together, adapt and adjust. So again, morals is associated with our indifference to right and wrong. When we have that, then we have a technical term called amoral. Amoral, like a child. Okay, a child who is born or who is growing, who does not have a sense of right and wrong, so a child will be called amoral, more like a clean slate. So the child has to be trained with moral behavior. That's why a child is amoral. And if you are a student in the previous like before break said, ma'am, can there be negative morals? I was like, there's nothing like negative morals. Lack of morals or loss of morals is immoral behavior. Okay, so immoral is being negative when you're consciously performing evil acts. All right, so I hope that's clear. So, ethics and values are not the same, Pawan. Before the break, I have shown a diagram, and you should have been present and seen that and the discussion associated with it, right? So, ma'am, we use morals, ethics, and values as synonyms. But now we have to be very careful. Yes, so very true. You cannot use values, ethics, and morals synonymously. They have different meaning. Ethics is even more conceptual than economics. Well, initially you may feel so, but later you'll realize every discipline has its own technical jargon, and that's how like you can consider it to be. Yes, even animals can be considered amoral, but see, I'll tell you something, Shiva. We use the term amoral for an individual who has the scope to learn moral behavior. Okay, so that's why animals के लिए हम amoral generally नहीं use कर सकते हैं, because they are not supposed to develop a sense of right and wrong. There are innate abilities that they have. Again, the moral, the word comes from moralis, okay, or Latin word mors or moralis, which is derived from the term customs. So morals, they can change over the time period. What are the source of morals? So we are learning morals from religion, like new knowledge. Like for example, it was immoral to favor homosexuality 50 or 100 years back. but today it is morally correct to support the sexual rights of an individual, right? So that's why. So sources of moral can be also associated with new knowledge. Also, sometimes morals transcend time and culture. Like, for example, selfishness was considered like an incorrect behavior or immoral act 100 years back, 500 years back, 2000 years back, and even today. So selfishness, like, breaching trust, like hurting others, all these are something which are considered incorrect behavior, right? So and you can see that morals, they generally are based on individual choice, so they lack objectivity. Remember this, lack objectivity. Why lack objectivity? Because why something is correct and why something is incorrect, that is something which is based on individual interpretation. So that's why an objective overview may not always be there. All right. So that's something which is associated with this given segment. He is moral to be honest, or he is ethical to be honest. Okay. Well, in this situation, he is ethical to be honest because social expectation is associated with honesty. So that's why he is ethical to be honest, because he is ethical. Ethical what? Ethical in social context. So even though the word social context is not written, Rahul, we use he is ethical. Okay. He is moral to be honest. Nahi keh sakte. We can say that it is morally expected from him to be honest. Okay. Anyway, why are we getting so much into the grammar part of it? All right. So lack objective, it lacks objectivity. It lacks objectivity means like, whereby we have a standard set of right and wrong. So it lacks objectivity because we can have our own individual interpretation, no, with respect to what is right and what is wrong. So with no, I mean, Ilma will not take up sociology here because it has no rhyme or reason with respect to what we are discussing right now. So in research method of sociology, complete objectivity is not possible. We will not take this angle right now, though I can respond to it with two other examples, but right now it's unnecessary. So no distractions, please. So one person's moral can hurt the values at large. No, a person's morals cannot hurt the values at large. An immoral behavior can hurt the values at large. All right, Sakib? Fine. Now, so yes, subjectivity is high because if we talk about subjectivity and objectivity, which is the most subjective discipline? Most subjective is philosophy. And ethics, integrity, aptitude is associated somewhere close to philosophy. In human sciences, if we talk about it. And what is the most objective discipline? So most objective discipline is physics, if you don't know. Then comes maths, that is mathematics. All right. So highly subjective. So subjective means a lot of interpretation is involved, a lot of understanding is involved. Literature is also somewhere over here, because in literature also, when we are comparing it to philosophy, okay, you will find that there are certain objective ways to deal with it. So a friend was immoral for eating okra. No, I will not say she was immoral for eating okra. Immoral is something which is wrong, okay, something which is wrong by any social standard, something which is causing hurt. Okay, it could have been considered morally incorrect by her family. Why will I consider it to be immoral? I don't have any such standards, right? So when we are talking about it, it was my friend's choice, going by her social values and family values, okay, and the ethical principles guiding her community. They would consider that her act was not morally guided or was morally incorrect. देखो, morally incorrect is still a mellow version compared to immoral. Immoral is when you lose your morals and you commit a crime per se. Okay, so let us like understand the stages of the terms. That's why it is a highly subjective discipline. So moral for one can be immoral for another. Yes, to a certain extent, there can be a difference in terms of interpretation. Okay, but in general, you will find that that kind of friction or confusion does not occur on an average, though there is subjectivity with respect to our sense of right and wrong. So objective, what is objective? Objective means, when I say it lacks objectivity, means this consistency in action is objectivity. But when we say it lacks objectivity, means different people can consider a given act differently in different situation. For example, maybe you can say that cheating is an immoral act, right? Cheating is an immoral act, but 2 days before the exam, someone is giving you the mains question paper, that you just see this question paper and you can just prepare accordingly. So you will find it as an opportunity. You'll be like, okay, like I'm getting an opportunity and let me make the best use of it. So that, in that situation, what is happening? You are bending your morals, right? So this is what you can understand. That's why morals, they lack complete objectivity. There will be some human interpretation and subjectivity as per the suitability of the situation. So what are morals? So here I have given you the core insight. So morals are those beliefs which are considered right but are not necessarily reproduced in action. what is morally correct may not be objectively correct. So may not be reproduced in action. I consider honesty, or suppose someone is saying that, oh, I really appreciate disciplined officers, punctual officers, but if I say, were you joining the session sharp at 6, like, I joined half an hour later. So in that situation, what happened? Your morals are not necessarily guiding your behavior. Are you understanding that? So morals may not be associated with like your action. It may not be reproduced in the form of action. And what is morally correct may not be objectively correct. What you morally consider to be correct may not formally or officially or in terms of ethos or values may not always fall in the correct bracket. That's what I implied. All right, good, Rahul. You joined in the session like in time. I actually keep noticing all those who join, no, their name keeps appearing. So I keep noticing who joined when, which name joined when, who left and again joined in. I don't like respond to it, but I notice the movement of each and every student. It's not possible to like, at this age keep taking names and saying, oh, why are you joining at this time? But I notice all activity. Everything is visible. As simple as that. Okay, so I just recalled that as an example when I'm discussing the issue of morals. Okay, now, so not understanding subjective, objective. Okay, Misbah. Well, sometimes you should also work on your vocabulary, Misbah. That is very essential. Subjective means which is open to your own interpretation. Objective means something which has a standard interpretation. Here you can see this. Objective, it means consistency in action, something which has a standard interpretation and standard way of understanding what ought to be done. That's objective. Subjective, which is open to interpretation, right? Okay. So morals can not always be guided by individual action. Morals cannot always guide, not guided by. Morals may not always guide individual action. Who is putting incorrect words in your mouth, Ilma? Please read the sentence. It's written over here clearly. Morals are those beliefs which are considered right, but not necessarily reproduced in action. Reproduced in action. You're writing just the opposite statement. Morals cannot always be guided by individual action, whereas the statement that I'm explaining is just the opposite. Morals guide our individual action, and morals may not guide our individual action, not the reverse, that action is guiding morals. Okay, that's an incorrect like explanation. So pay attention to grammar while you speak or write. Okay, in ethics paper, can we use only standard words? Preferably yes, Aditya. That is something which will give you marks. If you're not using standard words, like right now you're realizing the difference between values, ethics and morals, and if you're not using the standard words, it can lead to a faulty or incorrect interpretation, right? Okay, anyway, again, giving you some idea related to this, you can just see this over here when we are talking about it. Differentiate between laws and ethics. This question was asked like almost like 9 years back. So when this is to be explained, the difference between laws and ethics, I can help you with two examples related to it. First, you can see is that an act that is ethically right but not legally right. Okay, and second is an act that is legally right but not ethically right. Right. For example, when I'm talking about legal but unethical, so this was an advertisement which was published like earlier in the newspaper. You can see this was published in the newspaper in America earlier. So this is associated with sale and purchase of slaves. So it was legally allowed to purchase slaves. You can see the ad is clearly talking about a ship is coming on Tuesday on 6th of May, and it is carrying 250 healthy Negroes, and it is talking about coming arriving at Windward and Rice Coast, and it is talking about like these individuals, they are free from any kind of infection, as if animals are being sold. So you can see that this was a legal advertisement. It was legally allowed and permissible. But when we are talking about the component of unethical, it is unethical. Why? Because going by standard human thought process, or what should be ideally followed, we can see that this is something which is not to be appreciated or accepted. So like we can consider that it is legal, but it is unethical. It is legal to see this advertisement 100 years back, but it was unethical because human beings should not have been sold and purchased. It was not ethically correct. Okay, again, Mahatma Gandhi breaking the salt law. Okay, so the salt law which was violated by Mahatma Gandhi. So we can see that this is something which we all can consider associated with an illegal act. The British considered it as an illegal act, but it is ethical. It is ethically correct. I hope all of you are able to understand this. Again, let us see this given dimension associated with ethics and laws. So ethics are guided by internal locus of control. Internal locus, just a second. So they are guided by internal locus of control. whereas laws are guided by external locus of control. So how is law guided by external locus of control? So we can see that it is like laws, what do they do? So laws give us an idea, the rules, that what should be followed. They are codified, they are administered by the government, they are written, they are punishable with fines and imprisonment, right? They can be created like by the parliament, right? So they intend to maintain peace and order in the society. So when we speak of law, laws are they are like associated with external locus of control, whereas when we are talking about ethics, ethics are associated with internal locus of control. It is associated with our internal or innate or cultural or implicit or at the level of conscience, the level of understanding of what is right, what is wrong. That's what we can consider ethics is all about. So ethics is based on internal locus of control, which is guided by our culture, by our internal sense of right and wrong, by our societal interpretation, by our own individual reflections, right? So it is guided by moral philosophy. It is right versus wrong. It is associated with what is good behavior. So if you are not behaving ethically, no one is going to punish you, imprison you, impose a fine, right? But it is expected from you to do that, because if you do it, then you are exercising a good behavior, right? Again, it can be abstract. Abstract means not so clear. Again, it is individual and professional guidelines when we speak of it, and violations are not usually punished. If someone is, like, let's say, behaving unethically, then in that situation we can talk about it per se, right? Kindly tell us about legal but unethical. Legal but unethical. Well, why will law have any such principle which is unethical? You think about it. Why will law have such thing? And if there is such thing, then will we not amend it? For example, we could see that imprisonment, rigorous imprisonment for people being in LGBTQ relationships, or rather we can say any queer relationships, was there till 2018. But then we considered that is it correct to interfere in people's personal lives with respect to their personal sexual choices? And when we reflected upon it, we changed the law, right? So when you are talking about the given possibility of something being legal but unethical, so it was legal to punish a transgender person, okay, when we are talking about it. So a person is a transgender in 2017, and the person is in a relationship, so it was legal to imprison the person, but it was unethical, because even a transgender person can have human emotions, to have a family, to have a relation, right, to have a private moment with his or her partner, right? So it was unethical, though it was legal to punish the person. Yes, you can connect it also with adultery. Today, earlier, see, adultery was also considered illegal. Presently, we can consider that adultery, no, Abhijit, it cannot be considered adultery is legal. Adultery is still not legal. If a person is performing adultery in a relationship, the person is not performing a criminal act. Earlier, there were provisions associated with that as well. We amended the law. So the person is not committing a criminal act, but the person is violating the law of marriage. That's why it can be a ground for divorce. So somewhere the law of marriage has been violated, monogamy has been violated. So you cannot say that it is legal. Legal means by law it is permissible. So by law adultery is not permissible. Okay, be very careful when you are using the word legal. So just because something is not getting punished, it does not mean that it is allowed by law. Fine, I hope you are understanding that. Who was that student? Abhijit? Yeah. So that's what legal for Britishers, but violating was ethical for us. Yes. So legal for Britishers? No, illegal for Britishers. Salt law, breaking the salt law was illegal for Britishers, but it was, we can consider it was like ethical for us to break the salt law. Fine, I think all of you are able to like stand the concept. Now further, religion, when we are talking about it, so religion is also a source of morality. We can consider that, and it is a source of morality because religion gives us a sense of understanding principles of conduct, what should be done, what ought not to be done. Fyodor Dostoevsky, a very famous Russian writer, he said that if there is no God, everything is permitted. Means somewhere religion instills the fear in us that what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is right, what is wrong. Further, I have also compared between ethics and religion. You can see when we are discussing about it. So ethics, the central aspect of ethics is what? The rules of living, means how we ought to live, what is right way to live, what is the right way to live and what is the wrong way to live. So when we are talking talking about ethics, it is associated with rules of living, right? Whereas when we are talking about religion, we can consider that religion is what? It is following God's commands or religious rules in the central aspect. Again, with respect to ethics, we can understand ethics is grounded in reason and human experience, whereas religion, it is grounded in revolution or divine authority. So as simple as that, the difference between the two, right? So yeah, he wrote not just very long novels. If you read the novels, you'll find that they are very thought-provoking novels. Long, a person who does not read novels will be saying he's written a lot of bulky novels. A person who's reading him will be like, these are psychoanalytical novels, all right, Kibriya. So I think that you have you need to appreciate such authors, because thinking from that perspective is so I would say titillating, isn't it? So, but who don't marry then, whom love in relationship legal na? Oh God. Shanavas, please work on your language, bacha. Your grammar is as twisted as it can be. Okay. So it is more like a centipede with so many legs and so many hands and moving, twisted, turned. So this is something which is not going to fetch marks. So please try to frame grammatically meaningful and correct sentences. This is what I'll encourage you to do. So you could have written this, people who are not married, for them being in a relationship is legal. Yes, it is. All right. So 497, giving husband execution right to prosecute his wife's lover. A similar right is not conferred on a wife prosecute woman who provision. Okay, that's too much of language, I must say. So there are subtleties whereby in the world of law, it is considered that gender inequality can prevail subtly in the way we interpret laws or in the way the clauses are incorporated. Okay, Nitesh. So very briefly, I can say this. Yes, that's there. Laws like UAPA and TADA were legally right but ethically incorrect. Yes, so very true. That was also there. Now, yes, Brothers Karamazov, if you've read, it's like equally good. Crime and Punishment was breathtakingly beautiful, I must say. Again, so when we are talking about it, ethics are drawn from religion. Yes, ethics can be drawn from religion, because towards the beginning of the session itself, I said that source of ethics, religion is also there, right? So uh, hijab rule in Iran is example of legal but unethical. No, Nitesh, we cannot say it is legal but unethical. First, the a lot of women are protesting that it should not be a part of legal enforcement. It should be a choice who wants to use it. And for that, you can see there have been multiple marches, even social movement across Iran in protest of the hijab movement, because women were battered down to death, beaten up to death. So that kind of regimentation is what people opposed, and a lot of women burnt their hijab. That also happened, if you are following the news. First. Second, when we are talking about it, the moment you say that it is unethical, so it is legal but unethical, the hijab rule, you cannot connect it with unethical again, because the ethos are coming from our religion, from our social standards, our understanding of right or wrong. So the very statement falls flat on its face by being incorrect. So now, with respect to this, uh, okay, now a lot of examples. So examples, please, SME, please handle it. Let's move ahead with determinants of ethics, because a lot of students are writing examples. So please, like, facilitate their answer. So determinants of ethics, when we are talking about it, this determinants of ethics is also associated with the chapter or concept of ethical relativism. So ethical relativism means when ethics are relative to a person, a place, or a time. Okay. Time can be associated with also a situation. All right. So when we are talking about it, you can understand in the determinants of ethics that it is quite a complicated task to, like, judge an entire criteria of what is wrong and what is right. Okay. Because we can consider that nothing can be absolutely like and universally be right, and absolutely and universally be wrong. There can be certain variations as per the, like, we can say, as per the person, as per the place, as per the time. Okay. Like, for example, when we are talking about the personal ethics, let us consider it. I'll give you certain examples. So, like, let me say, can economic status, I'm so sorry. So can we consider this given dimension, that can economic status influence our ethical behavior? So can economic status influence, okay, influence our ethical behavior? Ethical behavior. Can economic status influence our ethical behavior? Yes, it does. Economic status is considered to influence our ethical behavior. Means, now the thing is, if I say that, are rich people supposed to be more ethical, then suddenly you will be like little furrowed brows, and you may say that Rich people having like more ethics or ethically more correct behavior, isn't it biased? It's calling like the poor people more unethical or more corruptible. So you may think like that, you may like consider your thought process like that, but now let me provide some insight associated with it. So with respect to this, when we are discussing about the dimension related to the component of person, so with respect to person, if I'm talking about economic status is influencing it, so let us consider that like on a bridge, a truck loaded with grains is crossing by, and it just topples over due to some I would say the driver not being so careful. The driver suppose collides with the railing of the bridge, and the truck, it just turns slightly, and the grains, they start falling under the bridge. A lot of grains fall down, a lot of sacks fall down. In that situation, let us say a merchant is passing by, and the merchant is seeing a lot of grains have fallen down, and he gets his own carts and starts getting those sacks loaded. At the same time, there are two hungry beggars who have not eaten for past 2 3 days. They are passing by, they see the grains, they somehow crawl down the way, and then they also start collecting the grains in little plastic bags. In this situation, will both be punished at the same competent level? Both are stealing the grains from the government vehicle, but are they going to be punished in a similar level? No, there will be difference in punishment, because one is stealing out of need, the other is stealing out of greed. So there has to be difference in treatment. The person stealing out of greed has no compulsive reason to steal. So in the lack of compulsive reason, when the person is doing so, the person has greater chance to be punished more severely. Okay, so when we are talking about economic status influencing our economic behavior, you have to be very clear about it. Mitigating circumstances at play, yeah, in a way you can consider that as well, that the economic condition also mitigates the and because if the basic needs are fulfilled, if the standard of life is relatively better, in that situation you can connect it with the possibility of the idea of development and how it articulates itself, right? So this is something which you can connect with. Then again, along with this person, when we are talking about it, let us connect it with from the angle of gender after economic status. So, does our gender identity decide our ethics when we are talking about it? Does our gender identity decide ethics? People, what do you believe? Does our gender identity decide our ethics? Okay, so a lot of you are having mixed expressions. Some are saying yes, some are saying no. So let me give you this given dimension associated with it. When we are talking about the possibility of okay, if there's any student from old batch and asking that till what time is the class, officially the timing is of the new batches from 6 o'clock to 9:30. All those students who are not aware of it and they don't see timetable, this is for them. Okay, like for example, Akanksha. So you should always notice the timetable. You'll get the duration, you'll get the time, you'll get the number of days associated with a topic. That's the smart and official way to be, right? Okay, now, so when and the timetable has been mailed to all of you. Now, when we are talking about it with respect to gender, let us reflect upon it. What does it imply? So, no worries, no worries. I mean, that's how you evolve. Now, with respect to this, when we are discussing about the component of gender, so does gender determine our ethics? Let's say boys, after completing their exam, so like let's say BTech fourth, fourth year BTech students, after completing their exam, like let's say the boys, they walk out of the walk out on the street near the highway, they purchase some liquor, and they take the music system from their hostel rooms, the Bluetooth or music system, whatever, and they take it, and near the highway in the open fields they keep the Bluetooth, they switch on their torches, and a lot of like torches, and after that they start drinking and dancing. The passing by vehicles are seeing, they can see there is an engineering college, and across the road the boys are dancing in the field, and they are on loud music at 1 o'clock at night. So a lot of people will be dismissive about it. They will just smile, they're like, haha, oh god, these boys, these young kids these days, they are such brats. Or okay, their exam is over, so they are just chilling. Now reverse the situation. Like let us say, 1 o'clock at night, girls near the highway in an open field, they have lit up the space with some torches and stuff, and there is loud music, and they are dancing and drinking and gyrating on the music. So in that situation, will the society have a similar opinion and similar thought process? So you can very well understand that our ethos, our ethics, it differs as per the gender identity as well. Okay, I hope you are understanding this. In the similar manner, with respect to, like, majority of the things, you'll see that like when it comes to presenting yourself in public, drinking, smoking, like, dancing, how you behave in public space, how you are behaving in professional space, how you are being assertive, your leadership quality, it is interpreted differently. Anyway, person, when we are talking about it, person with respect to professional role, professional role. So in terms of professional role, as an IS officer, you are not open to freely like, dislike, or express your political opinion. If you do so, that will be a mark of non-partisan behavior not being exercised. And in that case, some shunting posting can come. In that case, the senior can call you and ask for an explanation why you behaved in a specific manner, or why publicly you posted something which was highly political. So when we are talking about, like, let's say in determinants of ethics, when we are talking about ethics guided by you as a person as well. So your professional role as a person also determines how you are supposed to behave in public. What are the do's and don'ts you are supposed to follow in public? Okay, so I hope you are understanding that. In determinants of ethics, you are connecting it with person. Aditya, go easy, go easy. First, complete certain segment. We have not even completed first chapter. Okay, so as I'm completing this chapter, how about you going back and seeing the PYQs? Okay, you first understand the concept and then you reflect upon the PYQs. That will make greater sense, right? Okay. Now, we do not discuss about third gender. So very true. We also do not discuss about third gender in majority of the academic spaces. Okay. Now, with respect to place, so it can be possible that what is ethical in one place may not be ethical in other, ethical in other. Right. For example, I can give you that in India, when we speak of punctuality, punctuality. So in India, sometimes it is seen that it is not even treated as a value, not even treated as a value. Whereas if we are talking about Japan, in Japan, punctuality is treated as an ethics. Ethics means universal standard of right and wrong. Okay. So in Japan, punctuality is an ethical behavior, right? Whereas in India, it is not even treated as a value. All right. So that is something which you all can connect with. Like, for example, in like, let's say, in general situations, committing suicide is considered like unethical across the world. But, like, let's say if in Japan there is a samurai who is fighting a duel, like, a battle of swords, and the samurai can sense that the person is about to lose, so it is considered to commit suicide or kill oneself before losing the game. Okay, so when we are talking about it in Japan, a samurai killing himself will be considered as an ethical behavior, whereas in rest parts of the world, killing oneself will be considered as an unethical behavior. It will be punishable in countries like Europe and all. Similarly, you can consider this in India: open defecation, urination, or for that matter, spitting. I am just reminded of a meme that I saw, that it was like it was a cobra in Africa, cobra in this, and then Indian cobra, and a man was spitting out of the, like, window of his car, and it was like a huge spit. So, like, hissing cobra, two images were there, and third was Indian cobra. So anyway, in India we normalize spitting like anything. All of you can probably recall that, right? So that is there. The ethics do not have the same. People who are living in Singapore, you will see how clean and how meticulous they are when they have to pay the like, I would say, like, we can consider the possibility of the paucity of or the possibility associated with this given dimension. So, like in Uganda, homosexuality is banned but legal in US. Yes, you can connect with that as well, right? So when we are talking about places, according to the place, the ethics can vary. All right. So with respect to this also, we all can connect with this given idea. Again, with respect to this given dimension, I'm just taking one of the comments from all of you so that it doesn't, like, move ahead. Again, with respect to time, when we are talking about it. So again, please connect it with a lot of other examples, issues like surrogacy, dowry, like, you can connect it with live-in relationships, you can connect it with issues pertaining to euthanasia, okay, LGBTQ relationships. So a lot of examples can go associated with this, okay. I hope all of you can connect with this. So please explain punctuality. Punctual is part of, I think it's written. You can see that. So punctuality being not even treated as a value in India, and what to explain about it. You all know that people invite at 7 o'clock for their birthday parties or wedding ceremonies, and people will go at 9 o'clock. standard time 2 hours late, right? You can see that happening with respect to sessions, lectures, so many other things. Anyway, time. With respect to time, when we are talking about it, so like this sati, slavery, okay, issues related to imperialism, issues associated with untouchability, issues pertaining to racism. Think of all of this. And then you can connect with this given idea that these issues have been over the time period earlier considered ethical or correct or acceptable, and today they are considered unethical, okay, and also illegal. So that's how we can understand that as per the change of time, culture, situation, society, and individual, ethics may undergo a change. Okay, so I hope you are understanding ethical relativism or determinants of ethics. If you get a question on determinants of ethics, because in your syllabus you should always remember the syllabus. That's why I started the session with the syllabus, if all of you can recall that. So please run through it, and you'll find determinants of ethics is there, and this is yet another subtopic that I hope you have successfully understood. Now, when we are talking about ethics, there are three subcomponents. One you could understand is ethical relativism. Second, which we are talking about, is ethical universalism. So ethical universalism, what is it? So it says that ethics remains the same. It is discussed in moral philosophy. It considers that ethics remains the same. Ethics are universal in nature. The manifestation is what changes with time. The manifestation means how we exercise it, how we execute it, that changes with time. Like, for example, the idea of love and respect towards parents. So, love and respect towards parents, when we are talking about it, it is universal. It is universal that we love and respect our parents. But when it comes to the logistic issues at ground level, our treatment may change, our treatment may vary. For example, the practice of Talai Kutal. This is a news article which I just took a screenshot, and I just put it for all of you so that you get an idea. So what is Talai Kutal? So in Tamil Nadu, this practice is there whereby you can see that an individual who is like really aging, and this person is not keeping well, and there is no cure for the person's ailing because it's because of aging. So no medicine can cure that person's challenge. For such an individual, you will realize that it is permissible, it is allowed socially or culturally, it is allowed that the senior most child or any of the children can volunteer to kill the parent. Kill the parent means either mix something in the food, or while they are sleeping just make them breathless, okay, some method to put an end to their suffering. Okay, so that is also a standard practice. There was a very beautiful French movie, I remember. I'd watched it almost a decade back. It was Amour. It got some international awards as well. Amour. So in Amour, Amour literally means love, and in that also a similar situation was shown whereby a couple, aging couple, was living together, and the lady, she lost her memory and she was always bedridden, and the man had to sponge her, clean her hair. The nurse used to be like irregular, she was not so kind. A lot of nurses used to brush harshly, and there were other things, and the man was like constantly struggling to keep up with taking care of his wife in the with the absent nurses and children not being there. So one day he only put her to death. So is it like killing the person? Senicide, as the term goes. Side means to kill. Seni means old age. So is that actually killing the person and like unethical behavior? So if you go by ethical universalism, guided by love, guided by a sense of respect, when you don't want to see your loved one suffer, that is something which is encouraging a cultural practice like Talai Kutal. It may come as a cultural shock to many of you because of cultural relativism, that you're like, huh, how can you kill your parent? Even if the person is like struggling because of aging issues. So don't behave with cultural shock. Take it as cultural relativism, that as per the variation in culture, people may behave differently. It is the intention that you have to see, that motivated by what intention that act has been practiced culturally, that has been accepted socially. Again, there is a practice in like we can say that is amongst Inuit communities, that popularly you call them communities who are living in igloo, okay, or Eskimos. Eskimos is not formally a correct term, formally, because it is taken as a slang by the Inuit communities or the tribal communities living around Arctic region. So they have this practice that the aging population during winters, when they see that the food is receding and the younger lot, that is the children and the youth, are not able to have enough food, the food supply is shrinking because of harsh winters. So one fine day, one of the senior citizens who is aging and ailing chooses to, like, when everyone is sleeping, the person gets up, takes off all the clothes, and starts walking in the snow. and barely the person is able to walk something like 90 to 100 meters, and the person like dies because of pneumonia and like breathlessness, and the person just gets buried in the snow itself. So there are a lot of such cultural practices. So there is a universal ethos which is somewhere running as an undercurrent, which is somewhere protected or which is somewhere in consideration. But our practices, our manifestations may vary as per time or as per our experiences. So that is ethical universalism. That is, ethics remain the same. Ethics don't change. It is our manifestation that changes. Okay, I hope you can understand that. So, okay, all right. Okay, all right, Nikki. So, can we take example of active and passive euthanasia, as passive is legal in India? Yeah, you can connect with that as well. That's also something which you can also talk about it in terms of it. But euthanasia is still debatable when we speak of it. Talai Kutal is a cultural practice, but euthanasia is still debatable. So that's also there. So again, when we are talking about it with respect to ethics in terms of ethical relativism and ethical universalism, the third segment is ethical nihilism. And this is another extreme version. So what is ethical nihilism? So you can see it is rejecting the possibility of absolute moral or ethical value. In a simple language, if I speak of um, ethical nihilism, it considers, okay, it considers philosophy as pseudo discipline. Pseudo discipline. Why does it consider philosophy as a pseudo discipline? It is considering philosophy as a pseudo discipline because it considers that human behavior is unpredictable, and it says that when human behavior is unpredictable, in that situation, how can we try to, and and ethics is trying to control this human behavior. So ethics tries to control and predict predict this behavior. And according to nihilists, it's not possible because human behavior is very dynamic. Like, let us say, suppose a person, like let's say I go and I hit a person, and the moment I hit a person, the person is like, ah, don't hit me, don't hit me, and the person just bends down. Suppose I hit another person, the person is like, oh my god, she's about to hit me, and the person runs away getting scared. Suppose I hit another person and the person like holds my hand and asks me, why are you aspiring to hit me, and how dare you hit me, it's not under your legal authority or moral right, so you just cannot hit or exercise violence towards a person. And then there is a fourth person that I am trying to hit, and the person reverts back and gives me 3 4 punches and moves away. Okay, four people behaved in four different ways to the action that I performed. That's what nihilists say. Nihilists say that human behavior is highly unpredictable, so there cannot be a common chartering or a common characterization of how people can behave. And through ethics, by theorizing a discipline, we are trying to control, regulate, and predict that behavior, which is technically not possible. So, ethical nihilists, they negate this discipline in totality. If you read this given dimension as it is written, that ethical nihilist or moral nihilist, they reject the possibility of absolute or moral or ethical values. According to them, the idea of good and evil are quite vague. There is nothing like absolutely good and there is nothing like absolutely evil. The idea is quite vague. So as you can see, there was this movie Ravana, in which Ravani, no, Ravan, that's what. So in which there is artificial intelligence. I did not watch the movie, but I saw the snippet of it, in which Arjun Rampal says that there is there is nothing like good or evil. In this case, both the sides are evil. It's just that the interpretation that who is more evil and how, that we have to engage with. So there is like not like one side is Rama or one is Ravan, one is white, one is black, nothing like that. All the sides have gray tones. Let us see which gray tone is what. So that's what ethical nihilism is dealing with. Yeah. So Asur 2 I have not watched, so I can't give that example. Yeah. So truth lies in the grays. Yes, so very true. So that's there. So here, when we are talking about it, we can see that ethical nihilism, it is related to values and is simply associated with the social and emotional pressures that we develop our sense of right and wrong. That's what it suggests. So ethical nihilism, you will see that it rejects all forms of all understanding associated with what is right or what is wrong, or what kind of let's say principles we should arrive at. So they consider that there is extreme moral relativism in our existence, hence no ethical framework can be created. Okay, if you want, I can mention this. There is extreme moral relativism, hence, okay, hence no point to study ethics, right? So when we are talking about it, so ethics is having these three forms of manifestations. Ethical relativism, so ethical relativism can also be quoted when you are discussing determinants of ethics, then ethical universalism and ethical nihilism, the types when we speak of it per se. So okay, interesting, all of you are able to recall different types of examples, from Mirzapur to, Fight Club, to all that. I appreciate that, right? Do we have to judge the manifestation in terms of leftist and rightist? Well, leftist and rightist, you will understand once you are able to understand the component related to this political attitudes, and attitudes chapter is yet to be done, ilma, isn't it? So that's also something which I can say. Is talai kutal allowed legally? Is it good to encourage? Definitely it's not good to encourage such practices, and we are doing away with such cultural practices. That's also there. Do we have to judge the manifestation? This is done. Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett also focuses on existential nihilism. Yes. Now, Talai Kutal is ethical but illegal. Yes, it is ethical but illegal. If any parent or anyone complains about it, it will be under the purview of law and it will be considered illegal. That's there. So, who to judge a person? Well, the law of the land, the society, the community. So that's also there. Uh, you have to write within the word limit, Saqib, 150 words or 250 words. So that's there. Ethical relativism and ethics are relative to place, person, and time. And ethical universalism suggests that all ethics, there are some standard ethics, they never change, they are just the same. It's the manipulation or it's the interpretation as per the suitability of time that changes. But the universal patterns of what is right and wrong does not change. That's what Shalu it is. Okay. Now, when we are talking about it, you can ethical nihilism is nothing but it is negating ethics as a discipline in totality. It considers there is nothing like ethics because there is high level of subjectivity related to what is right and what is wrong. And when there is so much of subjectivity, how can we create a standard and through the standard create a discipline? Misbah, I hope that's clear. So, yeah, Santhara, when we talk about it in Jainism, Manoj, it is by choice. A person chooses to quit upon life because the person feels that his or her purpose for life is fulfilled. And when the person feels that my purpose on this earth is over, then the person slowly and steadily stops eating food, specific types of food, then slowly and steadily keeps zeroing down or narrowing down the kind of food items the person can consume, and the person gets into, I would say, a meditative existence. And in that situation, over the time period, the person finally moves to milk and then finally to water and then stops drinking water as well. So that's a systematically putting an end to one's life. And that's not something that has to be compared with Talai Kutal. It's different. Okay. Is killing somebody to free her from pain ethical? Yes, you can consider that is what is considered in the domain of ethics, correct. But in the domain of law, that becomes debatable. Who, what, why, euthanasia, that's how it comes into existence, right? How ethical relativism depends on economic status. You should have been little more alert, Shalu. It is like I told you that like people who are living in richer countries, you'll see that there is higher levels of honesty and integrity, lack of corruption, whereas people living in third world countries where there is lack of resources and struggle for life is tremendous. In that situation, reasons to go corrupt become they increase. That's how it works. All right. So that's how you're supposed to understand. So, can we say that ethical nihilism rejects political system? Where is political system coming into existence, Shanavaz? Ethical nihilism is rejecting ethics as a discipline. Nihilism is negating. And ethical nihilism, it's not written political nihilism. So, why are you just mixing politics with it? The person will be negating ethics as a discipline. Okay, so that's what. Now, so Negating ethics in simple terms, negating means refusing to believe that ethics can exist as a subject, as a formal standard discipline. All right, now getting back to this. So, what ethics seek to promote in human life? So, what ethics seeks to promote in human life? Mean what kind of ethics do we need to have in human life? And explain how ethics contribute to social and human well being. How? Okay, here what ethics seek to promote? So ethics seek to promote what values or what aspirations or what kind of impact in like human life. So this is what these two questions can be responded by understanding the consequence or relevance of ethics. Because by having ethics, what are the positive consequences that we have? In your syllabus you have consequences of ethics. Examiner is not going to ask words like consequences of ethics. The examiner is going to ask this language. You can see that what ethics seeks to promote in human life, or explain how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. So when you see these questions, you are like, what does that imply? So what is it exactly asking? It is asking about the kind of impact that shall be created by ethics when it is put to action. So like one of the students was saying that, ma'am, how to practice the questions? This is how. First you understand the theory. After understanding the theory, read the question, understand and interpret the question correctly, then recall the theory and put it as the answer. So there are two things. First and foremost, you have to understand the theory thoroughly. Understand and memorize the theory thoroughly. Second thing, understand and interpret the question carefully so that you can connect the theory with the question. Because if you are understanding the theory very thoroughly, but you are failing to understand and interpret the purpose of the question, even though the chapter will be taught, you won't be able to join the dots. And this not only applies for ethics, it applies for all GS papers in totality. All right. So this is what. Okay. So can I stick to lexicon? Yeah, you can stick to lexicon. One of the students was asking, what I'm saying is that if you stick to lexicon as a book, it's fine. But see, lexicon is quite a dry book. I've gone through it. I found it very dry. Fact, 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 dimension, dimension, definition, definition. I personally felt that if I had to read the lexicon, I won't have been, even though it's thin, but it was tough. Any book which is too thin, like for example, some people present gist of Yojana, gist of Kurukshetra, you can never memorize because it is all fact, 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 fact. You can never memorize it. You need logic, you need explanation, you need dimensions, you need examples. Even though it increases the volume or the number of pages, but that is how it will make sense to you. Okay, so that's what I imply to say about lexicon, Abhishek, as you're asking about it. Okay, so that's what. Um, Rahul, if you're asking about Article 370 ethical, well, connecting it with ethics will be little improper because if you're talking about ethics again, I'll start connecting it with history from ancient to medieval to modern, right? How the very idea of the community orientation has evolved over the centuries, right? So let us not mix politics here with ethics unnecessarily. So is the book provided by Byju's sufficient? Yes, it is. It is. It will serve the purpose. Or do we need to study other questions? No. The Byju's book is sufficient, but after understanding the theory, start connecting it with the question and start writing the answers. Okay, that is how you are like supposed to do. Tushara had suggested good sources toward the beginning of the session. So please join the session in time. Initial 45 minutes were dedicated for the purpose of sharing good sources. It is also included in the slide or PPT. Kindly go through it once this session is getting concluded and you are able to download the annotated PPTs. All right. And yes, please join the session tomorrow in time because this is ethics. This is no polity or history that आधा घंटा late भी join करेंगे तो चलेगा because you can catch up by reading the facts. This is something in which you do need some critical reflection and explanation, in the absence of which you may hustle and struggle. All right. So let us continue with our discussion tomorrow. I hope some thought-provoking ideas and perceptions were opened by today's session. The purpose was to initiate the process of you like understanding the basic technical terms, realizing that ethics has technical terms. You cannot use terms casually. Realizing that there has to be some role of memory, memorizing the differences, memorizing the definitions, memorizing the concepts, the dynamics associated with it. And yes, once you understand the concepts and theory, then reflecting in terms of the we can say previous year questions. So we'll continue with this discussion tomorrow again, and we'll start from here itself, consequences and relevance of ethics. For today, this is sufficient. All right. Yes, you can read the first chapter associated with this topic from the book that has been provided by the institution. That's it for today. Thank you.